Yes, sir. Peace and love, family. Yeah. Let me rise upon the seven and give all praises to the great God Allah, Father God Allah, and honors to his holy prophet, honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, El Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, that is. Give honors to my Moorish kin once again, here, there, and everywhere, and therefore honors to all of you who are continuously honoring yourselves by being yourselves. Give honors to our Grand National Seal, Grand National Emblem, National Flag, Divine Constitution, and bylaws, and honors to all of you who are indeed a living manifestation and personification of everything, and I do mean everything that our holy prophet brought to make us a nation. I want to welcome our Moorish kin to another measure. And this particular drawing here is a measure that will be dealing with uh, the second four of man. And this indeed will be a grand drawing, just as the last one. Yes, sir. Islam, Brother Jay. Yes, sir. Peace and love. Gratitude, grand man. Yes, sir. You know what? Since you here, brother, what we gonna do, instead of going through a whole long, drawn out measure, I'm gonna let you come up in here early. And anybody that wanna come up in here, but I just go through the particular measures. Yeah, that's it, man. And but that's a good thing. You was conscious, you was aware. You know what I mean? So it didn't really get you as you may have thought it have. You feel me? But this is why these lessons are important. Because they fortify you. Because see, a lot of time these things come through a door that you may not observe. You know what I mean? That's how they do it. When we feel like we mastered at one level, it's another degree that hit us from a whole nother aspect. You know what I mean? Yes, sir. Most definitely. All is well. So just know that the link is there for anybody that would like to come forth. And like I say, we look forward to hearing from you, brother. And all of our family. That's how we're gonna do it. We're gonna open it up and let our family come in as we move through these special measures. I think that'll be an even grander drawing with an open discussion. We can go through these things ayat by ayat, precept upon precept, so to speak. So what I'm gonna do, without further ado and delay, I'm gonna read something. I'm gonna share something first. Pick up where I actually left off. Yes, sir. That's right. Yeah, share it, and we'll definitely be ready when you get ready to get on, Jay. SL, peace and love to your family. You're more than welcome, to come forth on the cam when I begin to go through this special drawing with questions or comments and all of that right there. So, my casa, su casa. So, what I'm gonna do, I want to make sure I'm sharing the whole of my screen, which I believe I am. I'm gonna stop sharing and reshare because I know I had this little problem where I end up thinking I'm sharing the whole screen and I'm not. Okay, so here we go. Before we get into the first four, we're gonna read a measure, dealing with the flag. A lot of people confuse this special flag right here, with what they call a shrine or symbol and all that type of foolery there. But we know this symbol that we have, scimitar and star. If you go look at some of my other lessons, I show you that, this predate, the Shriner's emblem by thousands of years, because this is the actual symbol that's used by the Egyptians themselves. But the question here is asked in relation to dealing with this flag, which is a representation, of consciousness. That's what the scimitar is. It represents an instrument that allows one to basically cut away all ungainly ways, acts, deeds that have to do with naught, or what we call the lower self, low vibrational thinking. That's what this scimitar represents. It's not a weapon of war. And as you already see, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice is on the manifest here. And you would hear Noble Drew Ali say a lot of times, in his warning, he said, we are for love, truth, peace, and freedom. You see? And when these principles, meaning the principles of the star, are violated, justice must take its course. Where justice taking its course is a part of the process of creation itself manifesting, unbeknownst to many. Each one of these quadrants represent 90 degrees, of justice taking its course. You see? And this is basically the way creation is manifesting itself now. You know what I mean? So justice is most definitely taking its course, whether we know it or not. Justice is always there. Consciousness is always there, present to separate, truth from falsehood, strangely mixed. To separate, us from our weaknesses. To separate us from the darkness. You see? So this is a tool, again, of consciousness, is what it represents. And that's how it became our flag, even though this standard represents, again, our presence being on the manifest from the very beginning of time. This is science that actually verifies this particular symbol as well. If you look at some of my videos, we can go a little further into that, in a little bit. If those of our people who here have any questions that they would like to bring forward. So let me proceed. The holy Moorish American flag. The question is asked in the questionnaire of the Moorish Americans, what kind of flag is the Moorish? And the answer is our Moorish flag. That's key. Our Moorish flag must be the same kind of flag as the flag of Morocco. This word kind also gives heritage, roots, and nobility to the new nation of Moorish Americans because it links them to all contributions and marks of civilization achieved by our forefathers. It should be pointed out. The NBC being a man-made man has no true history, no accomplishments, and no worth in prosperity. It must also have a kind of 5-pointed green star centered in a red banner, and the points of the star must represent love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. In other words, these are the ingredients that Prophet Noble Drew Ali left to us when it comes to dealing with our banner, or our standard of what we call a flag. In ancient Kemet, the flag or the standard represents God himself. So keep that in mind as well. But anyway, it says, whenever Noble Drew Ali uses the terms our, us, you, or your, right, or we, in his questionnaire, he is referring purely to himself and the Moorish Americans as a nation of people. By rightful possession or responsibility, see question and answer number 1, 13, 14, 17, 21, 22, 35, 40, 50, and 63 etc. in the 101s of the Moorish Americans. Here, our flag is the flag of the Moorish Americans as a new nation of indigenous people, not the Moroccan flag of Morocco. The Moorish American flag is the circled scimitar and star. It shines forth. There are 5 principles above the pentagram and below. The star also represents the head or the power of authority. In this regard, the Moorish Americans are the rejected cornerstone of the human family, returned to their rightful place, the headlight. There is so much to be revealed about this ensign for the Moorish Americans, most of which will unfold as their consciousness unfolds. However, as all national flags express the spirit of each special nation, So does the Moorish American national flag depict the glory of a mighty God-conscious people. At a single glimpse, its revelation shows the historical Moorish torchbearers of civilization and the prophesied era to the uplifting of fallen humanity. Right? It says Noble Drew Ali wrote about our flag twice. Once in the Moorish questionnaire 20 in 21 or 20 through 21, and again in his supreme laws. The supreme laws are the great Quran of Muhammad and the founding of the Moorish Americans as a clean and pure nation. The latter is mostly revealed in the course of these auspices for first time to the public. See Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 45, ayat 1. The circle, scimitar, and star was originally centered on a pure white banner. White as driven snow. White means purity, purity means God, and God means the ruler of the land. Now, like I told you, the original expression that's being referred to, right here, this was demonstrated in ancient Kemet. You will see the deity, symbolic to nature planting a flag. This is a symbol for Neter, the supreme being, God himself. You see, so when you talk about purity being God, white being purity, you're not talking about a race, in regards to dealing with skin color and all that there. You're talking about a thought pattern. This is what Noble Drew Ali, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, was referring to in question 93. It goes on, the quadrants of the circle and the three parts of the scimitar are polished gold. The color gold represents nobility, royalty, and wealth. The polished coat shows the nation grown strong by buffeting and ma'afa of every kind. Ma'afa means suffering, the great suffering for those who don't know. Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 13, ayat 5. A nation still rich with much wisdom to be learned in these days for the redemption of the sons of men on the love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 48, verse 5, ayat 5. Now notice he spoke on gold representing nobility, royalty, and wealth. And this is also synonymous with the golden cord of love. Keep that in mind as well. So it states the circle, principle, scimitar, and star are all laid in a tapestry of emerald evergreen. The green represents fresh life, life everlasting. All of this grandness is in the center of a pure white banner. This is the composition of what Noble Drew Ali calls our flag. The letters LTPF are the highest principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, with justice secured omnipotently, right, in the scimitar. The letters of the principles are red to represent the fire of the five, which will burn and destroy hatred, falsehood, wars, maya, and inharmonies of life. That's the opposite of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, by the way, in retrospect. So it states, the Holy Prophet in all his teachings, sermons, and laws always kept these principles out front. They are woven in every fiber of the Moorish American being, from their constitution to their bylaws, from their Holy Quran to the proclamations from the Moorish American prayer to the seals in every hall of learning. Therefore, it is a standard to expect the five highest principles ever known to man. These five divine principles are not a new philosophy. The ancient Moors practiced them holistically on a daily basis. In ancient Kemet, Egypt, the system of Ma'at was founded upon the three-step order, the natural order, social order. These are exactly in line with the lessons that Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought to us, as he brought us holy and divine instructions, family. This is all dealing with the divine creed, and the natural order, of any people, that are rooted in divinity. Social order in reference to dealing with the social duties that we have been given by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, our holy prophet. Now it says, as established by Allah in the days of creation, the principles of Ma'at. Now you're going to find out the origin of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. The principles of Ma'at were harmony, truth, balance, right, order, and justice. This is the Comedian path. Harmony is love, right? Truth is the only thing that changes not, right? Balance. In other words, this would be peace. You find peace in balance, right? Right order. Right order comes through freedom, right? And justice remains the same. So this is the origin of the principles. As you'll see down here, it says, note and analyze the return of the ancient Moorish science. Moorish adept principles, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And as I stated a few minutes ago, juxtaposed over here, not in opposition, but in harmony, truth, balance, right, order, and justice. There you go. Love, harmony, truth, peace, balance, freedom, right, order, justice, justice. So this is the full meaning of this star. This is why you hear us saying that this star, the principles of it, actually supersede the actual symbol that you see here in the form of the star. This is a line again. Remember, you put it down and you draw this demonstration. You don't stop until you hit every angle of 72 degrees times 5, which is 360 degrees, right? But nevertheless, these principles existed from Kemet, and the Moors inherited it from here, and we brought it forth again as Moorish science. Praise be to Allah for sending us Prophet Noble Drew Ali. You see? So it goes on a little bit more in an explanation of what the 5-pointed open star represents. And it states the openness of the 5-pointed upright star represents freedom in a single expression. The interlocking of the 5-pointed star represents the infinite perfection of the circle. Historically, European intellect has never been able to understand infinite and spiritual teachings of Africa. Subsequently, this ignorance is always coated with taboos, paganism, and scholastically refurbished as meaningless versions of cultural codes. Unfortunately, these white man's words are digested as gospel among the sons and daughters of former slaves. Here are the return of the ancient principles which were taught to Abraham, Moses, Solomon, Yehoshua, and Muhammad, being emblematized, it says, in the 5 points of the Moorish star. It says, by Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, Arabic for Noble Drew Ali, these grand moral guidelines are displayed twice in the Moorish American flag. Once above the star, upward from the scimitar, and again represented by the 5 points of the star. Question 20. This is due to the fact, it says, these divine principles are the original attributes of Allah, and they are breathed into the soul of every ancient Moor. In essence, as above, so below. This is also the North Star, because it is the only light of stability in the Northern Hemisphere. Like so, the Moors are also the only light transferred from the East and buried in a shallow grave of the Northwest continental Americas. The principles above are the Holy Spirit, truth found in Surah 2, Ayah 87 of the Great Quran of Muhammad. It says the Moors call this truth Allah, or holy breath. It is the life in man. He himself must be the truth in order to be himself free. John 8:32. Then it goes on, and he states the sword is also the level of balance of equality from which the star is plumbed. The contact point centered at the convex of the the scimitar part itself, and the head of the pentagram represents the fruition of the Moor's consciousness. He's talking about the apex of the star, which is the highest point, which represents love. That's what a consciousness is, because the star is symbolic to man. You see, so it is the love that is united, with that scimitar that brings about a balance and a peace and everything else, you see? This is the consciousness of the deification of man and the wisdom that Allah and man are one. Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 7, ayat 23. It means the will of a conscious Moor is to forever be in harmony with the will of Allah. This is how man truly receives his divine nectar, from which cometh his strength. A Moor, no matter the gender, is ever mindful, conscious, that to not be upright and aligned with the Father of the universe is to beckon the wrath, which men call hell. The Moorish American flag is an outgrowth of the Moroccan flag, yet it is its ancient father. It personifies and warns all other nations of the purpose of this new, pure, and clean nation, identified as Moorish American. It's key that we understand that there when it says that, it personifies and warns all other nations of the purpose of this new, pure, and clean nation. I'm going to show you the example of that warning in a minute. When speaking about the true existence and the plight of the Moorish American nation, Noble Drew Ali warned, all nations of the earth in these modern days are seeking peace. But there's but one true and divine way that peace may be obtained in these days, and it is through love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, being taught universally to all nations in all lands. Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 46, ayat 9. Right? Now, what I'm going to do, let's see. I'm going to go here, and I want to show our kin, what we mean when we're talking about, this banner being a representation of a warning. And I have a lot of this stuff on my Facebook page too, by the way, for those who would like to go in here and do the research. This is what I was saying earlier when I was speaking on the origin of our flag going back to Kemet. As you can see, just blowing this up, and I have to go back here from time to time so our people can be reminded. Long before there was anything known as masonry, I shrined them. In ancient Kemet, you'll notice the F.O.E.S, and you see what they refer to as the leg of an ox above this star, and this is known as, the constellation of Musketti, the great bull. You see, the deity sitting here, the Netcher, in front of the same symbol. This became scimitar. See, it says it here, F.O.E.S, it gives the definition, sword, constellation of the scimitar, any weapon, the Great Bear. So the Great Bear constellation consists of 7 stars rotating around the polarises. This is the North Star you heard our chairman refer to earlier. And so when you look here, you see, and this is from the book of Hidden Gates, from Kemetic text. So it says, you can see here, you see the scimitars and the stars. These are the symbols that they have in their hand. You see, so you hear me going into the celestial origins of the scimitar. Well, we went into the measure where Mengsti, the sage in our Moorish Holy Quran, stated the wheel of time is turned once more. The race is on a higher plane of thought. The garments that our fathers wore have given out. The cherubim have woven a celestial cloth, have placed it in the hand, and the hand is symbolic to the mind. So this consciousness was placed into the mind of our Grand National Chairman, Dr. Akhenaten Pert M. Heru Tutankhamun Bey, passed down from Seraphim, you see, our holy prophet, because he said that he would be able to do his work from the plane of the soul. This is one of the reasons why man was given a soul to function upon the plane of soul. In a body of flesh to function upon the plane of things made manifest. When you hear about Jacob's ladder and angels ascending and descending, this represents swift angels that are able to climb consciously into their own divinity and bring high measures back into the manifest. This is how you are able to meet your prophet, speak with your prophet, speak with your ancestors, speak with the great God. You see? So anyway, this is how we received this celestial cloth or celestial garment, which became the Moorish flag. In transparency behind it, you see 2 crowns. This crown with the scimitar above it, And this is coming from the teaching of the Orishas. This represents the crown of man. This is the crown of woman, you see? Or some people would like to call a masculine and feminine principle, however you want to put it. But the scimitar and the star is present in the teachings of the Orisha. So that's another aspect linking it to our culture. This is a scimitar here. Again, the kafesh that you see over here, that's in the Dendera, the plane sphere, of the zodiac in the heavens depicted. If you look that up, you'll find it. So these symbols, and I'm showing different areas in Aliism, in the highest initiations, this is the tetragrammaton, which is sometimes called the pentagrammaton. I point out the fact that M and A here is where the scimitar is actually beneath the star, and it was Prophet Noble Drew Ali who came and raised that scimitar back into its proper place above the star, because the scimitar is always moving like just as taking its course. So the scimitar rests now, above the star instead of being below the star. If you look closely here, looking at the symbolism, you will notice the caduceus. What some people like they see on medical vehicles. You see two serpents intertwined in this. This is all symbolic to what takes place within man. This is what a balance exists at. This shield is a Moorish shield, from Spain. You see the scimitar rests above the star. I'm just showing everywhere where you can find this symbol. Even in the teachings of the Hinduism, you find in the teachings of Dharmaism, which consists of Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, actually as one teaching, the Amati Padme Hum. You see again the same symbol. This is a symbol here, that I designed in representation of, Prophet Muhammad and his family, because Muhammad was given his scimitar by the angel Jibril. You see, and they actually had the measure of Zulfikar that was passed down to Ali as well, the sword of Ali. Go figure. But this is known as the Pajdan Pak. The five, this is Muhammad, Ali and Fatima, Hassan and Hussein. And this is Allah in the center. And I just encapsulated all that in the pentance of the pentagram, showing you that in all actuality, Muhammad and his family represented his alabate. The name Al, gave birth to the word El, actually. Al and El, there's not much difference between the two. This is often referred to as a, definite article by the Muslims. But the word Al, when you go into the essence of the alabate, this is the house or the family of, the Prophet, Muhammad ibn Abdullah. But there's also a house of Allah as well. Man himself is the house of Allah. And he is protected again by that divinity that we call consciousness. So that's what you would see coming from the Sufi adepts. As you can see here, Prophet Noble Drew Ali had, this symbol. And on the other side, you can see the jump ring is a spinning jump ring. So we know on every medallion, no matter what color you ever seen, those who know the teachings of Moors, they know that there's always a scimitar and star on the other side of that circle 7. That's just a fact. Everybody know that. So wanted to point that out as well. And then even in books of esoteric mysticism, you see the same depiction of the tetragrammaton, dealing with the name of God. This is a symbol that also represents man himself. Arm, leg, arm, head. You see what I'm saying? So again, it was Prophet Noble Drew Ali. You see the M&A right here beneath the star, just like it is here. But he raised that scimitar above the star. And that is where the birth of our flag comes from. So in the heavens, this special symbol is known as the gate of God. It is also referred to as Meru, Mera, Mesurah, Mitzrah, Mizaro, Mitra, Mitzrayim, meaning the Egypt that is above the earth. As it is above, so it is below. Everything on earth has a complete replica above in the heavens. So I just wanted to point that out right there, just mentioning this portion. I want to go to the warning that I was talking about a few minutes ago. If you notice here, you see I have a picture. In this picture, it has our chairman here. This is his favorite question. Dr. Akhenaten Pert Imherutu to come and Bay. Notice he says, who made you? And notice he's unsheathing the scimitar. I put all this together in symbolism to explain just that, a warning. So he asks, the present king of Morocco, what is the modern name for Moabites? And he answers, Moroccans, right? Then over here, he asks, the prince of Saudi Arabia, descendant of this brother, Ibn Saud, who actually gave the prophet many different degrees of unfoldment when it came to his high name and acknowledged him, unbeknownst to many. It says, to him, who is guarding the holy city of Mecca today to keep the unbelievers away? See, the chairman is asking this question because in all actuality, think about it. Who is guarding the holy city today to keep the unbelievers away? Or has the enemy infiltrated the holy city of Mecca so much so to where the unbelievers are in a disarray and overtaken? You see? So angels are supposed to be guarding that, but an angel is the thought of Allah manifested in the flesh. So I let y'all think about that as special measure. Now, if you look here, I wrote, the vacant seat in the east has been filled. Because the prophet Noble Drew Ali said that he was due east as well. You see? So he's working from the plane of soul. He's due east. The vacant seat is no longer vacant because the prophet, is basically seated in that special seat. So the chairman's favorite quote, a word he actually coined in phrasing, in totality of every thought, is I wish a member would, and that's why he unsheathed in that scimitar. So notice I have words from Ibn Saud. He said, we are not against religions. This country is the cradle of prophecy and the true message, and we will not contradict this, right? Prophet Noble Drew Ali's statement, he said, I am due in the east right now. I'm going to have to go and straighten out the east, and then I will end up in the west. The west will be the easiest. You will be able to be down and sleep and wake up in peace. You see? So all of the symbolism you see here, if you notice, the flag of Saudi Arabia has a scimitar in it. The flag of Morocco has a star in it. So this is why this symbol is a warning even to these individuals. We ain't forgot about this second folk. We just wanted to go into some of this symbolism so that y'all can get some grand drawings. When you hear us say salvation, right? Our God, unity. And we can only be one nation under our own flag, under our own God. You see, unity comes when we come together under our own government. Salvation is the prophet that was sent to us. And this is what our brother Marcus Mosai Garvey L was pointing out when he said, one God, one aim, one destiny. So we have reached that destination, family. All we got to do is embrace this measure. And I see you, brother Jay Parr himself. We're going to let you in, grand man. Yes, sir.
What's going on, brother? You can hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you. If you want to make it go shareable, brother Bates Bay, go to the actual YouTube video and you can share it from there, grand man. You see? Yeah, you can go there and then you can share it. But you can come on the board if you want to click the link, Swift Angel, because you're a constant general, so you might as well. So I see this one is talking about the glyphs in Coptic. We'll address that at another time, but I have plenty of videos, SL, that you can go and look at where I'm addressing, Arabic, Coptic, Demotic, and right now we're dealing with the Hieratic, which I got to upload that video after I get done with this sometime. So we ain't gonna leave no stone unturned, family. You can believe that. We're gonna give you the truth and nothing but the truth. So help you God. So thus far, my brother Jay, uh what is your response? Because we're gonna go on a point by point basis when we go through this next four. But just so far, what drawing do you get from that special measure, brother, that we just set out?
I heard something once again that I want to latch on to because you always say
Go.
something that I gotta latch on to.
Yes, sir. Go
Uh,
ahead, brother.
I don't got the exact quote, but you spoke of being in harmony with the will of Allah, so to speak. The key word was harmony. So I wanted to ask you, what are some exercises, some things that we can do to remain in harmony? Because like I told you, I fell victim to one of the foes of man just last night, and you was just teaching on it. And then I got tested. And then some part of me just said, you know what? I don't feel like, doing this right now. And I just let loose. So I'm like, what can we do is it just an exercise? Like, what exercises can we put in place to overcome these foes?
Uh, Without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength, and thought is exercised by strength. So the key is really mastering, the mind, so to speak, through meditation, through holy breath. You know, you know how some people use the term, and it became popular. What people say, "Wusa," you know what I mean? But in all actuality, when you become the breath, you don't even have to say that. You just say to yourself, "Let the peace be still." A lot of time people don't know the difference, and the relevance of what we call prayer and meditation. Prayer is when you talk to God. Meditation is when you listen to Him. So the key is opening our divine consciousness, our divine ears. That's what we call our research team as well. The Egyptian Adeptus Research Sultanate. There's an acronym in there for ears. And so we have to keep our consciousness open. It's not even strange when you deal with the word heart. A lot of people don't know you can find the word here in the word heart, right? You can also find the word ear in the word heart, just by dropping the T and moving the H around and so forth and so on. You hear people say home is what a heart is all the time. Well, we say in the 101s, where's the nearest place we can meet Allah? Within the heart. So when we are able to hear without our passions, use that square, that Moorish square and compass, keep our passions and desires within the bounds of righteousness. This is where we are able to master these measures. This ain't an overnight demonstration, though. All of this comes with work, and like you use the master word, exercise. Exercise from the aspect of strengthening oneself and also exercising those demons that lurk in our basement that we call the lower self. Islam?
Right on, brother. I got a second question, and I don't want to be too critical about what I'm about to say. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but one of my criticisms of Orthodox Islam is that it kind of rejects that listening aspect to God, and it deals with a lot of talking to God. Um, Maybe I'm wrong, but that through my journey right now, I felt like that was the part that was missing. I'm like, if we knew that Prophet Muhammad was a man that would resort to the cave and go and meditate, why isn't that something that's more spoken about within Orthodox Islam?
I give you the reason because in every uh, way of life that is on the manifest now, they are basically entryway points, so to speak, if you know what I mean. They give you the basis and the foundation. And this is not taught to the common masses in most cases when you're dealing with religiosity. So a lot of people end up staying stagnated in the exoteric thought pattern. Yet the Quran itself speaks of the internal and the external. The internal deals with what they call the bati. Zahir is the exterior. That's esoteric and exoteric. Exoteric, EX, deals with those things that deal with outer forms of rite ceremonies and form. For example, some people make wudu and they wash themselves. They wash their mouth, they wash their arm, and they're doing this because this is traditional. But many don't have a true meaning behind why they are making wudu or the real symbology that wudu entails. So wudu, in all actuality, outside of dealing with the cleaning of the body and the washing the mouth, the symbolism is washing the hands from any acts and deeds, that may be of a sin-filled nature. We say the hand is symbolic to the mind and our body all the time. You hear me saying it all the time. So cleansing the hand to us would be like cleansing the consciousness, as opposed to cleansing just the physical hand, and then they end up, going into cleaning up their arms and so forth and so on, all the way up to the elbows, and this reminds me of what we think about, the arm of Allah has not been weakened. You arm, leg, arm, head. Whether we know it or not, alif, lam, alif, ha. You see, this is a mantra in and of itself that has a relation to dealing with the self. Those letters that represent the name Allah, alif, lam, alif, ha. That's a meditation. There's many of them that you can use, but that's one. And so when you deal with the washing, of the arm, and we said that this represents the strength of Allah, that his arm is not weakened, in other words, you're talking about law that governs all events. You see, you are strong enough to hold it up. You see, in ancient Kemet, you would see ones lifting up the heavens, in the form of shu or ka. You see what I'm saying? All that has to do with holy breath. And this is what we have to get back to. Just like the washing, of the nostrils, getting those things, the stench, of just say unbelief, anything that's of the lower self, out of your sensory perception. You see, same thing as washing the face. You hear people on the street level, they used to say, man, I got to keep my face clean. I'm trying to clean my face. Well, if you do that for man, then what about the supreme reality? Because we are told in the Moorish Holy Quran, when you look into the face of man, you look into the face of God. That's one of the measures you latched on to last time we was building.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And so also we know the word face is also used in the Grand Quran of Muhammad, where he says in Surah 2, Ayat 112, Surah 2, Ayat 115, it speaks of, it doesn't matter whether you turn toward the east or the west. Whithersoever you turn, there's the presence of Allah. This is because you don't have to turn in a direction to meet Allah. And the nearest place to meet Allah is in the heart. There are teachings that says that Allah is nearer to man than his very own jugular vein. He is nearer to man than man is himself. He says that if man will remember him within himself, he too will remember man within himself. So, man, this is powerful. This is all denoting that Allah goes to the essence of the being. When it says, whithersoever you turn, that's the presence of Allah. The word used in the Arabic for that word presence is translated from the word waj. W-H, W-A-J-H, waj or waji. You see? This word waji is also used when it states, whosoever submits his whole self to Allah. The word self used there is also the word that is used for waj. So if the word self in the presence of Allah is connected to the same word, that means that Allah is present within the consciousness of every human being. And this is why you hear them talking about stay taqwa, stay God conscious. This is why the Sufis, they talk about the remembrance, dhikr, and the remembrance of Allah. You see? So all of this is symbolic. When you keep the great God in remembrance, this is your scimitar. This is your guard. Just like the angels in the Piscean record, what they call the Bible, turning in every direction with that scimitar in their hand, making sure that nothing ever enters their consciousness, because there's a gateway up here. This is a crown, but it's a gateway. Whether you moving forward, whether you dealing with what's behind you, what's here, or what's here. That's why, when Iblis fell, he said, I'm going to put them all in the wrong. I'm going to attack them from the left, the right, the front, and the back. But if you got the conscious thoughts, which is an angel being a thought manifested in the flesh, your conscious angelic thoughts, they stand guard at those points of the crown of our consciousness. You see, this is what it means when it say cherubim. You are cherubim in your highest state of consciousness. You the one that with that scimitar of consciousness that keeps those things again that are ungainly of the naught of the lower self from coming within. This is powerful science, just dealing with the signs and symbols. But yeah, the voodoo, going further, all the way down to washing the feet, dealing with where you may have went along the way. See, this is the real essence of understanding, what's symbolic and what's symbolized. You know what I mean? And you got to get the works of this brother too, Brother Mustafa Gadala. I have to hold it back actually for you to be able to see it a little better. But this is called the Egyptian Mystics, the Secret of the Way. And this particular brother, he will tell you certain things about, just exactly the science that we demonstrate. But he talks a lot about the same consciousness that we speak of as well. I want to give you a drawing out of this here because he draw from Sufism as well. And
yeah, I think someone in the chat actually wanted you to expound about Sufism and its connection to more science.
Yeah, I didn't even see him, but we getting on it right now.
Yep.
So it ain't strange that they asked me because I'm looking at you and me on the screen. I can't really see what's going on behind it, but we finna get to that right now. So it ain't strange. Whoever asked that question, we finna get into it right now. And this brother, he speaks on this here. A lot of this is dealing with Sufism. I want to make sure I get that key point that I'm trying to point out to you here. The brother said it here. He said, the general perception of mysticism is that it is possible to achieve communion with God by attaining knowledge of spiritual truth through intuition acquired by fixed meditation, right? The Egyptian model for gaining knowledge is based on the utilization of both intellect and intuition. In the Egyptian model, there are no chosen people who are picked by God or a religious authority. One must seek the divine through a hard labor of love. That's that highest point of that star. That's that consciousness, right? It says those who succeed in achieving union with the divine are chosen and venerated by the masses. This book intends to clarify the facts and to shed light on the Egyptian mystical model, Sufism, yet not too much light because that could endanger the traditions and their practitioners under the present ever-threatened dark cloud of Islam. And he's talking about those who are caught up on the exoteric explanation of things. You see? And so the brother goes on here and he makes this statement. He says, the term baladi will be used throughout this book to denote the present silent majority of Egyptians that adhere to the ancient Egyptian traditions with a thin exterior layer of Islam. In other words, it's saying that the Sufis, really draw from the Egyptian source, and this is closer to the model that Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought to the Moors. He didn't Arabize us, and that's why he was referred to as the Egyptian adept master for a reason. But nevertheless, it goes on where our brother Mustafa Gadala said most eloquently. He said the Christian population of Egypt is an ethnic minority that came as refugees from Judea and Syria to the Ptolemaic Roman-ruled Alexandria. That's during 333 BC, basically. It says now 2,000 years later, they are easily distinguishable It says in looks and mannerisms from the majority of native Egyptians. See Ancient Egyptian Culture Revealed by Mustafa Gadala for detailed information. So in this book, dealing with mysticism, this brother has some powerful measures. But going into Sufism and the connection of Sufism to Moorish teachings, the brother pointed out here, he said, the term and practices of Sufism surface as a result of Islamic conquest and the subsequent terrorizing of its victims. It says, in order for the Islamic terrorized masses to maintain their ancient traditions, they had to camouflage old traditions under an Islamic garment. And this is where, the Moors come into play at, because the Moors already had received teachings from Kemet. So when the teachings of Sufism came to them, that became their vehicle of not only keeping the teaching they had, because remember, Sufism itself was founded by a native Egyptian born, in Akhmim, of Kemet, which is known as Dul Nun. Dul Nun is the father of Sufism, but Dul Nun and Orthodox Muslims recognize Dul Nun.
Can you spell that, please?
DH.
Yep.
Yes, sir. And I'm actually getting ready to pull it up. It's DHU, and then you separate that in the L, and then hyphen NUN. Dul Nun.
And he's the founder of what?
Sufi. He's the father of Sufism, basically.
Okay.
But he was born in Egypt, and if you ask him where he got his teachings from, Dul Nun would tell you they came from Tehuti, aka Enoch, aka Hermes, to the Greeks. You see what I'm saying? So basically, it went on to say the pure form of Sufism originated in Egypt. Other countries copied it and were quick to take the credit for it. Their application of Sufism is impure and incomplete, as we will find throughout this book, right? It says the common premise mentioned above about the roots and essence of Sufism is absolutely wrong, as we will conclude by examining the facts throughout this book. Here are just a few introductory facts. The notion of an Islamic origin of Sufism is wrong. Islamic mysticism is an oxymoron. It says, as per the following selected points. And these terms are used often, again, as a cloak, so that ones will come into a clear conception, without being, we'll say, molested, so to speak, attacked by those who have not unfolded into this higher knowledge, so to speak. So it says the mystical seekers who are called Sufis have always suffered from Islamic rule throughout the ages. And that's true, even though Orthodox Islam tell you that tasawwuf, is a must that one master when they learn Islamic sciences. You still have those who go in opposition to the teaching of Sufism. Some people, not all Muslim, but some. It says many have been killed, and they have been accused of attempting to make an innovation on the dogmas of Islam, of following practices forbidden by the Quran, of denying the very existence of a personal Allah, the tolerance or lack thereof. Sufism in the Arabized, Islamized world is closely linked to the whim of the ruler and how he interprets and enforces Islamic laws. During certain periods, Sufism is tolerated. During others, it was outlawed and condemned. The keynote of mysticism, Sufism, is the union between man and God, which in Islam is considered blasphemy. It says, and such is punishable by death by any Muslim who is empowered to do so by the Quran itself. And so what it is showing you that those who are stuck on the exoteric plane, when you begin to speak on certain levels, some of these people, will react, dealing with a lower self-thought pattern, or dealing with the manifest, the physical. And this is what has given Islam the bad name that it has been given. It didn't begin that way. That's not what Prophet Muhammad himself intended. But nevertheless, When people misinterpret certain things, they tend to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes on, it states, right? It says Islamic teachings are characterized by a consuming fear of God's wrath. And this is talking about the interpretations that people give to the teachings of what the brother referred to. He says, while the Egyptian model of mysticism, Sufism, emphasizes love and not fear, God is perceived in terms of emotional closeness, the friend, the lover. It says, whose love can be experienced personally and individually. Mysticism or Sufism is based on self-attained revelations by mystical means, which is contrary to Islam, according to the interpretations of certain scholars, right? Such revelations as experienced by the mystical seeker Sufis are considered blasphemy and therefore punishable by death as established in the Quran. It says the Egyptian mystical seekers, Sufis, include in their ritual practices as well as a public festival specific methods to achieve ecstasy, proximity to God through music, dance, or song. This runs contrary to Islam, where music, singing, and dancing are strictly forbidden, as clearly stated in all treaties on Islamic law. Now, notice these are all things outside of the Quran, that give these rulings. The Quran itself don't give these rulings. These rulings are given through what people call hadith, which the Quran is said to be the best hadith and the best sunnah. That's in the Arabic in the Quran. There's nothing wrong with reading these extra, you know, uh, drawings when it comes to dealing with these books that we call hadith and all that, but you never exalt that above the Quran itself. In fact, you're supposed to take these books and see if they are lining up with Quran. If it lines up Quran, yes. If it don't line up with Quran and it's not in Quran, it may be a good thing or a good statement. You can embrace it if it's good, but if it's something else that's questionable, then you leave it alone. That's an Islamic ruling, but we don't learn that. So it says, contrary to Islamic doctrine, Egyptian mysticism, Sufism, bridges the gulf between man and God with folk saints, veneration of folk saints, and pilgrimages to their shrines represent an important aspect of the Egyptian Baladi mystical practices, which is totally against Islamic doctrine. And this again is not something that's stated in the Quran. This is something that is stated in other sources of what scholars say. They the one that make these things prohibited and forbidden. You know what I mean? Based on something they interpreted a certain way. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So it says the claim of a Persian order of Sufism is also wrong. The Persians themselves refer to Egypt as the source of Sufism. For example, the Egyptian Dhul Nun died in 860 CE, is recognized in all Islamized Sufi references as the spiritual source of Sufism, who prepared the way for the presently known form of Islamized Sufis. Sufis claim him for their own as a leader and the originator of important concepts such as the mystic's direct knowledge, gnosis, of God, and the stations and states of the spiritual path. Dhul Nun was knowledgeable of the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. He was actually one of the first to try to mess with them too, before the Europeans did. It says a number of short treatises which deal with alchemy, magic, medicine are attributed to him. Thoth, Tehuti, an ancient Egyptian nectar god, is recognized by all early and later Sufi writers as the ancient model of alchemy, mysticism, and all related subjects. You see, so you can tell the Sufis draw again from the teachings of Kemet. The well-known Sufi writer Idris Shah, who was an Iranian Persian himself, admits the role of Egypt via Thoth, Tehuti, and Dhul Nun on Sufism and alchemy as follows. This is what Idris Shah said. Now, Idris Shah is an honored scholar in Islam. He states, alchemical lore came from Egypt, direct from the writings of Thoth, Tehuti. According to Sufi tradition, the lore was transmitted through Dhul Nun, the Egyptian, the king or lord of the fish. That's what Dhul Nun translates, one of the most famous classical Sufi teachers. And that's coming from a book known as the Sufis, 1964. So it also goes into the fact where it says thought names, a thought name, Tehuti again, appears among the ancient masters of what is now called the way of the Sufis. In other words, both the Sufis and the alchemists recognize Tehuti as the foundation of their knowledge. Idris Shah also makes a direct reference to the Spanish Arab historian Said of Toledo, who died in 1069, who outlines this tradition of the Egyptian thought, aka Hermes. It says sages affirm that all antediluvian sciences originate with the Egyptian Hermes, thought in Upper Egypt. The Jews call him Enoch, and the Muslims Idris. It says he was the first who spoke of the material of the superior world and of planetary movements, medicine, and poetry were his functions, as well as the sciences, including alchemy and magic. So, these are certain measures that are put in. It goes into a lot of measures, which I'm going to touch on some principles. And I want to move on to second F.O.E, but I want to see what you have to bring forth and also look at my board and see if our family have made some statements that I need to address as well. You see? So there we go. Okay, Islamism, the Rastal, Ray Sean, peace family. We see you in here again. Yes, sir. Peace and love. Like I said, I'm gonna drop the link in there again for anybody else that would like to come in here. You're more than welcome. We're doing these as open forums, so to speak. So yes, sir. That was Rastal. Yeah, that's the connection though between Sufism and Moorish science. Though it's really with the Moors, they took that same teaching, into Kemet, and that's our interpretation. It's the Sabian degree, because the Sabians also trace themselves back. These were the teachers of Muhammad, the Sabi'un Hunafa, before he met the angel Jibril. Peace, brother Charles Warrell. Yes, sir. Peace and love, family. Islam. So yeah, brother. Do you have a measure to bring forth, brother Jay?
I'm on the same page with you, bro. I was just looking up the definition of inconstancy, changeability, not sticking to a predetermined course. So I was on my way there with you.
That's right. That's right. So what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna share my screen, and I'm gonna go into the chapter, and we're gonna go, like I said, precept upon precept. With this special measure dealing with inconstancy. And again, we're dealing with the five folds of man, and this is the second F.O.E here. And notice, you see the head of the goat upside down. The chairman is showing you. See, you got degrees that man fall in as well. Just like we got degrees that man rise in. We hear about the 2 that held and the 5 that fell. That's the reason we hold the 5 and the 7 up. The 2 that held represent cherubim and seraphim. That's man in his consciousness. Once he goes into the angelic degree and become one with God in his consciousness. But those 5 that fell is when one falls from the consciousness of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when you fall into an inverted thought pattern, everything that goes against love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So this gives birth to the children of flesh that we refer to as Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. Remember, Lucifer in the Bible was said to be a bright and morning star, but he fell. He fell when he said, I'm going to exalt my throne above the stars of God himself. This is referring to the ego. You see what I'm saying? So the second F.O.E, which is really synonymous, we say Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. The Lucifer came on to manifest with that first F.O.E, instability. And then instability brings about inconstancy. And this is where that satanic behavior come in at. And every F.O.E that pretty much moves along, this brings a thought pattern into the manifest. What you think about that, brother Jay?
I'm just learning, man. I got my notebook and my pen out.
Yes, sir. Well, all is well. We're gonna dig deeper into this measure then, because this is powerful.
Let's do
It
it.
says, and this is chapter 41. It says the holy instruction from the last prophet, inconstancy. You got these adept commentaries in here as well from our chairman, powerful man. This is the preamble. He states, he said, dear students, remember, he said, each of the five folds are human illnesses that reside only in the philosophic hearts and minds of men. Inconstancy is the second of these folds and has been revealed in the Moorish holy book of the Seven Seals. These latent enemies are often psychologically identified by Western scholars as consequences of post traumatic slave syndrome, PTSS. Inconstancy is a major side effect of PTSS, which the Holy Prophet has defined to his Moorish nationals as mental slavery. Please do not take these mental effects lightly. These deadly after effects of the suffrages, that's that ma'afa, they say, or otherwise cerebral devastations, are remnants of when one has been shocked, broken, tormented, or otherwise traumatized. Is not unknown by the general public. These studies have been maintained in clandestine and undisclosed within the various departments of the military as though suffered only by service personnel, especially when encountered by armed forces, prisoners of war, or accidental unexpected deaths in their family. Soldiers, no matter how well trained, can be traumatized by witnessing life-altering events on the front line, e.g., forms of death, mutilations, and casualties. Often these post-traumatic syndromes, no matter how well treated, can still leave a person shell-shocked, paranoid, and mentally tormented for life, right? It says, with the exception of Professor Noble Drew Ali to this day, no one speaks about the post-traumatic syndrome suffered during slavery by hundreds of millions of descendants of Africans from 1492 to this present day. Most people here in the West assume the entirety of slavery ended in 1865 with the ratification of the Congressional 13th Amendment. But those government laws merely abolished the constitutionality of the West African slave trade, but never had the power to free not one slave and not one American citizen. Mentioned the mental traumas endured by centuries of enslavement imposed upon the people of Moorish descent by virtually every nation, religion, culture, and secret society on earth. Noble Drew Ali described this post-traumatic slave syndrome as mental slavery. This is the only kind of slavery that you Moors have now. You know what I mean? So what you think about that, Brother Jay?
Well, here's my question.
Yes, sir.
Do these five folds unfold in degrees? Like, is this a step ladder? Is one not as bad as two? Is three worse than two? Is five the absolute worst? How does this all unfold?
Well, actually, one plummets all the way into the last fold, which is called misery.
Okay.
So basically, yeah, it's definitely degrees. Like I said, one falls in these degrees. Like one, being like Lucifer in one state, you fall, then next thing you know, you become Satan, then you become devil, then you get into the state of spreading your devilishment,
Yep.
Then you become dragon, blowing that hatred, hot flame of hatred upon the people, the breath of death as opposed to the breath of life. You know what I mean? And you know what happened when you deal with that measure right there. And then you have the beast, which is the last stage, which we hear in our youth, all of them all the time. They love to say, I'm in beast mode. I'm a beast. You know what I mean? So when you get into that state, most time people don't even care what they do.
That's right.
That's basically saying I'll do anything. Anything goes.
I think today they call that savage mode.
Savage life. That's exactly what they call it, and that's why we hear To do it like our brother Elijah Poole them say, civilize the savage. Actually, it's 3 degrees in the soul, according to the Grand Quran of Muhammad. Nafs Amra, Nafs Lawama, and Nafs Mutmaina. The Nafs is the soul. So those 3 degrees of the soul, Amara, Lawama, and Mutmaina. Amara means bestiality. Lawama means consciousness. You see? And then Mutmaina is felicity. So we fell from a state of felicity into a state of bestiality. You see what I'm saying? So, man,
Right
that's
on.
powerful. Go ahead, brother.
Okay, so real quick, 1, instability. 2, inconstancy. 3 would be what?
Oh, you talking about the next 4?
Yeah, I just need, maybe we
Yeah,
could
yeah,
list out
yeah.
all 5 for
We
everyone listening.
going to them. But
Okay.
actually, I had them here. I had them labeled up here because they're in the chapter. The next 4, when you go here, you will find this weakness. Then you have insufficiency of knowledge, and then misery.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
So that's where your devil, your dragon, and your beast and all that come into play. We also call, that last 4 Hotel Les Miserables. There was a movie called Miserables. You should see it. That was one of Tupac's favorite movies too. But anyway, it goes on. It states the psychological traumas encountered by Moorish people during their centuries of slavery in the United States are rarely, if ever, mentioned. When the topic of slavery, it says, is at the podium. But make no mistake about it, chattel slavery regulated in the United States, it says, is the most critical of all psychological traumas in the history of the human family. In fact, it will be to the furthest stretch of one's imagination to find a more man-made catastrophe event than the psychological residue from chattel slavery. This includes all wars, genocide, and the last Jewish Holocaust. It is the maximums of mental terrorism to alter a person's natural status of freedom and force them into a much lesser life-threatening, yet retrained environment. Although this lesson addresses this traumatic conditioning of the mind, there is still a hidden degree of mental slavery unbeknownst to the majority of its victims, because it is rarely experienced by the conquerors. The proven success of mental terrorism is largely based upon the fact it is it is in the nature of the mind to become what it thinks. When the mind has been traumatized and disallowed to think freely, the human soul has the ability to shrink its capacities of willing, thinking, and reason, understanding. It says, in horrified, if horrified and capacitated with enough fear, the mind has within its prerogative the power to mirror its aggressor. Now, this made me think about Frantz Fanon, The Wretched of the Earth, where the oppressed becomes the oppressor. We see that in our community. So it says, or it can merely shut down completely in avoidance of present and future traumas. Aftershocks of PTSS, right? It says mental slavery, post-traumatic slave syndrome, basically. It says can be the long-lasting silent killers to the development of any person, tribe, or nation. Remember, the UK's United Colonies or her United States has never been without its staple of slaves. This is why the 50th anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech had no more effect upon the celebrating minds of the man-made NBC in 2013 than in the previous 520-year history. He said, it is a gift from the great God for man to think and know the divinity in his principle of freedom. When the mind is free, it thinks, reasons, and understands as infinite gifts. He then becomes himself free, and is the great God as one. Still, inconstancy is a foe and should not be considered as anything less than an enemy. that we must identify, fight, and conquer. See, this is where you got to put that scimitar of consciousness to work. It says some of the corollaries of PTSS, mental illnesses, are unfaithfulness, instability, infidelity, variable, wavering, right? Unpredictable, changeable, disloyalty, untrustworthy, irregular, broken, self-betrayal. In your learning to master your mind, you must use reasoning. This is the greatest soul action, to use in your victories against the various deceptions of inconstancy. So what you think about that, brother? Anything stuck out in particular?
I'm gonna be real with you. I'm still trying to catch up. I'm over here taking notes on the 3 nafs in the Quran. I'm trying to catch up to you.
Yes, sir. And also SL said Aquarian Gospel. If you go into my works, brother, you will find that Levi was not the author of these texts, and I have him saying this himself. He said they existed in Sanskrit. He just didn't want to admit that he got his teachings from there. So the texts already existed among the people of India, just like Noble Drew Ali said. Noble Drew Ali never said he was the author of the Circle 7. He said he divinely prepared it. You see? And so Levi H. Dowling, my brother, is the one that you need to look into, because he say he got it from the Akashic records. At least they say he said that. You know what I mean? So who you gonna believe? Prophet Noble Drew Ali say he got his teaching from the people of India. Levi H. Dowling say he got them from the heavens. You see? So, I mean, come on now. You gonna believe the European? Or you gonna believe one that looked just like you? And furthermore, like I said, he said himself that they existed in India, but he claimed he didn't get his from there. But Prophet Noble Drew Ali say he got his lessons from India. So he told you the truth. I just wanted to add that to you, brother. So no, Levi is not the author of these teachings that we call the Circle 7. Even when you deal with the social duty chapters, it actually said those degrees that a lot of people like to refer to as unto the eye grant, they actually came from Akhenaten the Fourth, according to the actual writer of what we call unto the eye grant, which was a Buddhist, as well. So these are nothing more than Kemetic teachings. They are Egyptian because these are the 18 missing years of the life of the one that is known as Jesus in the Bible. We call him Yehoshua. He was in Kemet being taught by masterminds and Egyptian adepts. The social duties come from Akhenaten. So if that ain't Egyptian and Moorish, as it is, I don't know what to tell you. What you think about that, brother Jay?
That's right on. A lot of people don't know about that.
That's right.
Isa's years or Yehoshua's years and studying in Kemet. And I'm not sure if this is true, but did he also study in India?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's what the Circle 7 really is talking about. His journey through India, through Europe, Greece and all. You know what I mean? He traveled all over.
Mm-hmm.
The key to his travel, though, he wasn't trying to change, the people's way of life per se. He was tweaking them because they once had the truth but had fallen away. This is how mastermind demonstrate. The truth has been sent to all people. A prophet and a warner has been sent to every nation, according to the Grand Quran. They even use the number. They say 124,000 prophets have been sent. Some that were mentioned and known, and some that are not known. But if you understand the truth is the only thing that changes not. That's why in the degrees of how we demonstrate, we say Prophet Noble Drew Ali came 5 times more powerful, than all who came before him, because he bare the power that they possess. So he came with the highest and the loftiest teachings of all those who came before him, giving honor to them. So in spirit, we can see his connection when he say he's Yehoshua will come again. We can see his connection when he say when I was Muhammad, or when I was Noah. You see, we can see these things are dealing with spirit and not flesh. Islam?
Islam.
Yes, sir. So let me proceed on then. You have any question or anything you want to state before I go back to the fold, my brother?
Now, one thing I really like that you touched upon was when you said the Quran deals with the exoteric and the esoteric, and you said the esoteric is that inner intuition, I believe, and the exoteric is that outer, I guess we could call it flesh or being. And you talked about wudu and how it's symbolic. And then that just made me think of how these outer doings may be symbolic of the inner spiritual practices as well. My initial criticism was just that I feel like the way Orthodox Islam is presented doesn't really go too deeply into the esoteric.
Right. That's because it's being presented, on the surface level. See, like I was saying before, see, people don't know. It's 3 different degrees to Orthodox Islam. Like I said, they don't know that Islam is just the first degree. You don't hear people talking about, what is called Iman, and then basically Ehsan. Iman being faith. You start off in surrender, but you go to the degree of faith, and then when you unfold from that, then you go into what they call Mushinun, being a doer of good deeds. That's the highest degree of unfoldment when you deal with them 3 eyes. This is what the angel Jibril, who we call an Egyptian or Comedian adept, taught Prophet Muhammad. To tell you, Muhammad went through the 7 heavens. That was his consciousness. These are the 7 adept degrees that Muhammad was taken through. And they say he rode on the Baruch, or the creature, into the heaven, which was really a sphinx. A human head on the body, of a bull somewhat. You see what I'm saying? This was a sphinx.
What are the 3 degrees? You said Iman, faith,
Yeah.
Mushinun. What's the other
Well,
one?
Iman is when you say simply surrender. Well, Islam part itself is simply surrender to the will. But Iman is faith. So it's one thing to be, in Islam, but then you can just be in Islam surrendering. You're going to do that anyway. But to be faithful, which the chairman pointed out right here, dealing with this particular folk, that's another degree. To bear the name of faithful. You see what I'm saying? Even in the 7th act of our Moorish Holy Quran, that's what it says. Then you are entitled to the name of faith. But even faith fluctuate on our 3-step ladder in the Moorish science measure, because we have faith, hope, and love on one level, but in another rung on the 3-step ladder, we have belief, faith, and fruition. You know what I mean? So faith moves up a rung, but this again, Islam, Iman, and Ehsan. You see, Ehsan is being a doer of good deeds. You see, I mean, this is basically being that part of myself. This is when you're able to worship Allah as if you see Him, and even if you can't do this, you worship Him knowing that He sees you. And then when you go into Muslim, Mu'min, and Mushinun, that's where you go into the doer of the good deeds. All of them run hand in hand with each other. Muslim is one who merely submits to the will. When you hear us say Muslim in Moorish science, and we'll tell you Muslim is the will. So it's one thing to submit to the will of Allah, but another thing to be His will in action. In other words, through deific will, you have become one with divine consciousness, and your every way, act, and deed is just like that of an angel, to hear and obey. That's all you know. You know what I mean? And so that's why we say the difference between Muslim and Muslim is that one submits to the will, one is the will. Think of it. In other words, you have aligned yourself divinely. It's just a higher degree of the former. So again, Muslim, Mu'min, Mushinun. Mushinun, doing good deeds, running hand in hand with Islam, Iman, and Ehsan. These are the things that Jibril taught Muhammad before his companions. They said when he came amongst them, he was dark, he had white garbs on, and he walked through there, and anybody else would have walked through there, they would have basically took their head off, according to the Hadith tradition. But they say they didn't touch this one. And then when he got through teaching and because he went knee for knee in front of Prophet Muhammad, in front of them, he left without a trace, so to speak, and Prophet Muhammad asked them, it is said that he said, do you know who that was? And they was like, no. Who Rasulullah? Who messenger of her? Who was that? He said, that was the angel Jibril. He came to teach you your religion. You see what I'm saying? And that's a powerful measure, but I'm giving you the esoteric, and the exoteric. That's right. I see our brother Rastal is demonstrating. That's right. That's that Al-Qaeda, that Melchizedek degree. Yes, sir. So when you understand that in and of itself, and Melchizedek, the order of Melchizedek really represent man being chosen before he came from the womb. We call it the sacred grove. The sacred grove of your mother, the womb of your mother. You were taught, you were prepared there before you came into the physical. Even within the loins of your father. That's why I said Abraham met Melchizedek while he was still within the loins of his father. See, that's what it means to be a part of the order of Melchizedek. You a part of that before you come into the flesh. Everything ordained for you to do is already written. That's who Al-Qaeda is. And Al-Qaeda was also manifest as one in the Quran who taught Moses that in which he didn't know. He taught him patience. That's a whole nother lesson. Moses was learning all the ways of the Egyptians. But he had to have somebody to come and teach him, just like Pharaoh had to have Moses come to him as a god, according to the Bible. In the Bible, it says, see, I have sent you as a god to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron is your prophet. He had to send him in a God consciousness because Pharaoh thought he was God. So that's what Moses was able to be learning all that wisdom and cast his serpent down there and swallow Pharaoh's serpent up. This represented knowledge. This represented wisdom. Yes, sir. You got something you want to bring forth, Brother Jay?
Over here learning, bro.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
just listening and learning. Like, seriously, people need to really tap in and treat this like school. Like, this is free education. You know what I'm saying? Like, our people need to be tapped in. Get to know yourself.
Oh, they gonna come. They gonna come. Y'all keep sharing it, man. And I see people in and out. We get consistency, man. They gonna get it. The ones who want it, they gonna get exactly what we bring into the manifest.
You know what that remind me of?
Yes, sir.
I gotta get my notes out because you just said this the other day. But basically, you said something like, the mind will never accept what it is not ready to receive.
Facts. You know what I mean? Facts, brother. It don't get no plainer than that. Now watch this. Just speaking on that, watch this. Even accepting his own ignorance, that's another thing. Our people don't want to accept, that they don't know. And that's the measure. Knowing is half the battle. When you accept to know is to know that you don't know, that's when you grow. Because the ego ain't in the way. You ain't edging God out. EGO, as they say, edging God out. So it says, holy instruction from the prophet, inconstancy. Now here's the ayat. Nature urged thee to inconstancy, O man. O Moorish American National, MAN. It say, therefore guard thyself at all times against it. What is nature? In the material world, especially of the plants, beasts, birds, elements, and the mundane, nature is the origin, constitution, and conformation of life. Nature is what keeps every living thing bound within the jurisdiction of its native plane of life. This whole is especially true for what is now called human nature. Hold that thought. Now, what is the fall? When any stronger manifest crosses the planes and eats, devours, or consumes the weaker manifest, this is called the fall. But the nature of the falls is maya and are very delusional. Falls make conquest to appear as victorious, when in truth the subjugation is really a descent and not a rise into nature. That's why I say you can't fall in love unless you plummeting deeper into a bottomless pit. You have to rise in love. You see what I'm saying? That's true love. That's love divine. So the activity of a fall, any fall is defined as the experiencing of a depth or depths deeper than former, more natural heights gained by the victim. It is in the real nature of the mind to seek the truth and grow universally. To shrink or be content with oppositions of expansions is not in the nature of the mind. These negative actions found only in the fall also explains why people who fall in love will never be truly happy. There are 7 ether planes of protoplasm, of earth, of plant, of beast, of man, of angel, and cherubim. All fail with the exception of angel and cherubim. Throughout the all of creations, it is the 7 that constitutes all sounds, eras, layers of skin, senses, chakras, etc. Unlike the 6, which is weak and subject to equal division, the 7 remain sound, even when the 5 that falls is still supported firmly by the will of the 2 that never fail. For example, man has a total of 7 senses, but 5, sight, smell, touch, taste, and hearing, are confined to his body made manifest, the flesh. This leaves intuition and telepathy, which he can sense here as well as there. The body of man also has been gifted with the renowned 7 chakras, yet only 2 are planted above his neck. Humanity fell to the lowest depth when they fell in love with his own body of desires. This is how false sensations vibrating from his carnal nature got its rise. Remember, when you fall in anything, place, or person, you are then below the height of where you should have remained. Thanks for holding. Now, when man fell, he fell head first by his lack, pardon self, his thinking or lack thereof. That's why we say thought is the cause of it all. His thought was the cause of the fall, right? Man fell because he had developed desires, tolerances, pleasures, and experiences encountered upon the shell of these false sensations. From his 5 senses of the flesh and the 5 chakras below his eyebrows, in time, maya of these untrue sensations became assumed as a natural, because of their inconstancies found in his own nature. Human life is but God who fell, right, into human nature. The carnal mundane character, but still spirit clothed in fleshy things. Our prophet warned this. It says that nature that urged thee to inconstancy, O love, God, man, and spirit of Allah. Therefore, guard, protect, watch, shield, look out, and defend thyself at all times against it. What you think about that, brother? That exegesis the chairman gave.
I think it's crazy they don't teach us this in school. You'll never learn anything like this in school. So to me, this is real school. You know, this is school that's essential to every human being. You know,
That's
but
right.
it's almost like you got to search and find it yourself because you're not going to get it in any public space.
That's right, my brother.
And this is deep, bro. Like, again, I'm trying to catch up. You know what I'm saying? This is deep. You got to really, let this sink into your mind to process it.
Well, you right on my heels, brother. You definitely catching on pretty good. You know what I mean? So praise be to Allah. Now watch this. Now this is the second ayah. It says, Thou art from the womb of thy mother various and wavering. From the loins of thy father inherit thy instability. How then shalt thou be firm? This is talking about the physical body. where we come from in the physical. All of those sensations come from the flesh that cause us to be unstable. So it says the body of a human female can develop into womanhood, yet her infinite essence is the spirit of God. That's what all of our sisters need to learn. Womanhood ain't about how curvy your figure is, how big your buttocks is, how well you can put a lace front on, and all that type of stuff. It's all about that God spirit. It says a mother's womb is various, assorted with a variety of timely changes, because it is both flesh and divine. Hence, a mother's womb is the first home where divinity and matter meets. I was talking about that sacred grove earlier, right? That order of Melchizedek, right? Or the order of Ma'at, right? It says with or without Makusatek. It says with or without conception, the nature of a womb is subjected to various times for fertility, natural cleansings, and warmth. Because she is both God and human, her womb is often indecisive, hesitant, and fickle. This is why from the womb of our mother we have acquired the inconstancies of being various and wavering. The loins is the area between the waist and the thighs. There is nothing more inconstant, unstable, and subjected to the external controls of psychic risings, temperature, shrinking, and external sensitivities than the loins of man. And since the sperm of the father carries both the very seed of God swimming within the descendant nature and genealogy of the family heritage, is there any wonder where children inherit their instability? Yet one's firmness is a learned experience in the sacred school of know thyself. What you think about that there, Brother Jay?
Bro,
Anything
bro,
on?
that's crazy. Now this is science right here.
You
Because
hear me?
before we even opened this up, I thought, yo, why are women, like, we know, when I looked up the definition of inconstancy and I saw changeability, volatile, unstable, I'm not gonna lie, it made me think of, what we describe women to be, or at least a type of feminine energy or whatever it is. So just for me to think that before this chapter even comes into play, it's just like, whoa. And
Confirmation.
I gotta go back, replay this, and listen to it again, because that was deep.
Yes,
That
sir.
was deep. That science of man, woman, that was deep, bro. That was on point.
Yeah, that's confirmation. And like I said, anybody that would like to come here, and get up on the panel that's out there looking, you're more than welcome. I just dropped the link again. But that's right, Brother Jay. Powerful degree. Now watch this. It get greater. This ayat 3. Those who gave thee a body furnished it with weakness, but he who gave thee a soul armed thee with resolution. See, that's that consciousness I was talking about. My conscience rules. It says, employ it, and thou art wise. Be wise, and thou art happy. So your happiness comes from your ability to be resolute, to be foundated. The opposite of what instability is, the opposite of what inconstancy is. You feel me? You got to be resolute. But he says the parents who birth you could only give you your personal body of flesh, which has been furnished with weakness manifold. We now call these weaknesses the 5 folds because they are thoughts which derive from the manifest. This is the best your father and mother could do with birthing their sons and daughters. But now remember who truly made you. Your spirit, as well as your soul, is what makes you the God you are. With your soul comes the 5 actions of the soul. That's thinking, willing, reason, understanding, remembering. That arms you with resolution, reasoning, and resolve, decision, ruling, declaration, right? It say it is therefore up to you to employ it and make reason work for you. Once you hire resolution to work for you, then you are wise. It is a part of wisdom to think and use reason. Then you will come to know and experience true contentment, happiness, and satisfaction. What you think about that, brother?
I'm playing catch up, bro. But I took a note. I took a note. Being resolute. That's the answer to inconstancy.
Yes, sir. Keeping that
Being resolute.
centaur consciousness on the manifest, ain't it?
That's right.
Yeah, you that cherubim in the garden, man. Standing
Who
up there saying, I dare you come back up in here. You
who
know
who
what I mean?
I think we need to give more credit to who it is that's laying down this information. Because
It's
I
the
asked you
truth.
before, I said, what is this from? You know
Yes,
what I'm
sir.
saying? So I
That's
think we need to address that too. Who is this coming from?
this coming from our chairman, like we told you last night. These are Akhenaten's lessons, and that's why you hear me uplifting him and telling you this is the last adept, brother, that made all us swift angels. You know what I mean? You see how deep him along with the tribe of endurance. He got cherubim and seraphim with him. Them two God women that he got as well.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? That stood with him throughout this whole unfoldment process. That's why you hear me bragging on my chairman like I do.
That's
We
right.
ain't bragging and boasting about the things of no worth. We giving honors. This one of the last avatars, bro. The manifest. After him, it's us. You know what I mean? And so we got to give him his flowers while he here. You know. So yeah, that's powerful. It says, Ayat 4. Let him who doeth well beware how he boasteth of it, for rarely it is of his own will. Now listen to the commentary the chairman brought forth. He says the accomplishments, benefits, and realized status you have acquired today are usually contingent upon what others have willed to you from yesterday. Boasting and bragging of one's doings is never wise. When one becomes aware of what they have accomplished, it is best to humbly let wisdom speak from divinity with gratitude in acknowledgments and realization of benefits received. Rarely can one do well independently and solely of their own self-reliance without the willing assistance and support of others. What you think about that, brother?
That's facts. That's
Big fact.
facts. We all got to stand on the shoulders of someone else. Like I'm learning from you right now, and then I'm gonna hopefully pass this on to somebody else, or at least have them experience it through my actions, even if I
That's
don't
right.
say it. So
That's right. That's the key. Like you said, living it. And like you say, we stand upon the shoulders of the giants that came before us. I honor that, brother. Go ahead.
I think that's also what you were saying of why that makes Prophet Noble Drew Ali like one of the most dynamic prophets, because he gets to combine the wisdom and knowledge of everyone who came before him and expound it to us in a way that we can easily understand, or more easily understand than some of the older teachings and their ways of doing things. So I think it goes together with that as well.
Facts. Facts. Yes, sir. And watch what it says here. In the light of that, it says, this is Ayat 5. It says, is not the event of an impulse from without, born of uncertainty, enforced by accident, dependent on somewhat else? To thee and to accident is due the praise. An impulse is an inclination, a desire, wish, urge, or whim. Impulses are stimulated thoughts, which were created or born in the hearts and minds of men and other thinking things. When these thoughts are manifested, mingled, and experienced with other happenings by the thinker, it is called an event. Events are always preceded by thought and not contingent to the thinker. It is called an event. Events are always preceded by thought and not contingent, again, to a certain time or place. Oftentimes, man will underestimate the power of thoughts, Yet when they occur without his memory or calling, he becomes afraid and calls the event of the impulse an accident. It says, yet without the enforcement of his divine powers to create the event which depend upon himself would never materialize. Accidents are mere incidental schools of happenings. This is where man, be he the survivor or the victim, learns what to do and not to do in order to stabilize his life. This is why our holy prophet reminds us, as God made flesh, it is us who enforce the accident. Hence, we should accept the responsibility of its transpiring. To thee and to accident is due the praise for the creation and honors to the event. You know what I mean? So, goodness gracious.
Okay,
Go
so
ahead, man.
events are always preceded by thought.
That's
Uh,
right. Thought is the
uh,
cause of it all.
forgive me for asking because I'm trying to keep up, so I gotta ask. But what precedes thought? Nature? Is that just a part of nature? Like where
Well,
do
it's
these?
in nature of man to be a thinker.
Okay.
You see, so really, the only thing that precedes thought is the source that the thought derives from. You see?
That makes perfect sense. That's right.
Yes, sir. That's a powerful demonstration. The event is the key. That's why we say it ain't about the cause of a situation, but the call. Many are called, but few are chosen. So it goes on in this particular ayat. It says, beware of irresolution in the intent of thy actions. Beware of instability in the execution. So shall thy triumph over two great failings of thy nature. He says, beware, take heed, be wary, be careful, look out. Irresolution, indecision, non reasoning, vacillation, wavering, uncertainty, intent, aim, plan, objective, meaning, purpose. Thy actions, deeds, engagements, achievements, proceedings, instability, unsteadiness, insecurity, shakiness. Two great failings of thy nature, irresolution and instability. It says the intentions of every Moorish American should be preceded with premeditated and a conscious resolve before you actually execute or manifest a said thought of action. I always say we should think 5 times before we come forth in any course of action. You know what I mean? Think upon the line of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. It says always be ever mindful and cautious of the instability within your own nature, because that same faux instability is in the public that will receive your actions. But there it is, joined with a lack of gratitude. Islam.
Islam, bro. This is information that all people need to learn. Um,
It transcends Moorish America. That's right. That's why I say we were going to have to take these lessons and even set our brothers right in the East. See, there was a mission given to the Moors. The first mission was the uniting of the Asiatic states, which we've been dragging our foot on. All of us coming together. I don't care what religion group, what you call yourself. We unite, under the Moorish divine and national movement. That's the real intent. But after that, then we can go and unite the Asiatic nations. You see, we got to unite the Asiatic states first, and then we can take these lessons, abroad. Islam.
question. Islam.
Go ahead, brother.
You mentioned it, but it was in conjunction with a whole bunch of other things you mentioned. But you said something about being a woman is not just about how curvy you are and who could put on the best lace front. We're talking about this nature, and I think it basically says by nature, women are fickle, due to the womb and the demands of the womb. So what's the resolution for women? What's the practice for women to can they overcome this nature, or are they
Yes,
just
they can. They
okay?
got to recognize that they God too. They one with God. You know what I mean? And that's what it really boiled down to, knowing who made you. Instead of looking at the fleshly part and thinking there's some power in that. You know what I mean? You got to know who really made you. It's like he said, it's your mother and your father that gave you this physical body when it comes to that material. But who gave you the spirit? That's the question. You know what I mean?
Who gave you the spirit? Who gave you the breath? What do you mean
That's
by that?
right. That's
Okay.
right. Who gave you the breath? That's exactly what we're saying. Because man is a spirit and a part of Allah. Man is spirit clothed with soul made in the form of Allah. That's what we got in our chapter on the unity of Allah and man. Spirit clothed with soul made in the form of Allah. Arm, leg, arm, head. Yes, sir.
That's facts. I like that.
Yes, sir. So yeah, man. It goes on in Ayah 7. It says, "What reproaches reason more than to act contraries? What can suppress the tendency to these but firmness of mind? Reproach it, criticism, blame, accusation, scold, censor, point the finger at, contraries." It says the opposite, opposition, reverse, defiant, stubborn, stiff-willed, uncooperative. Boy, our people suffer from that, don't they? Tendencies, bents, and inclinations. That's things that people are so caught up in they can't come into the high self of the divinity because what they tend to, the tendencies, firmness, stability, and constancy, mind, actions of the soul, thinking, reasoning, willing, understanding, remembrance. There's nothing more revealing of a god or goddess. See, that's the answer to that question, ain't it? Not willingly thinking or reasoning than to act to contraries to infinite wisdom. The tendencies to use the non-thinking and contrary actions are not insurmountable, but can be duly suppressed with the actions of your purified heart and mind. When the mind's actions are founded upon the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, there is no failure for the human soul. See what I'm saying?
Got you.
Yes, sir. Anything you want to add to that one?
No, not really. I just think it's valuable information that I never really came across. Not to say I didn't have any intuitive knowledge of it, but to have it presented in such a coherent way I think it's very valuable.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I tell you, picking up on everything, man, very swiftly. You got a lot of swift angel in you. So we look forward to that day when you can come forth and give back everything it is you receiving now. Before the Moors, as you sit on the call and listen to them, and whenever you feel time, you come forth when you feel it's right, and let the Moors know that you here, proclaim yourself before the government in which you live. You feel me?
It's divine timing, bro. Because trust me, like this right here is something I was looking for, but it's like I didn't even find it. It kind of found me. You know what I'm saying?
That's
So
right.
it's divine timing. I was
That's
looking
right.
for something just like this, man. Like just like this, and it's like best kept secret. When are people
Yes.
gonna catch on? Because all
Yes,
these
sir.
other places got a big audience, but they not expounding on information like this.
That's right. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. You know what I mean? And when you go into that special measure in and of itself, you right on time. You right where you supposed to be. Everything you went through prepared you for these degrees that you drawing from now. You feel me?
Right on.
To make you one of them strong frontline soldiers, brother. And we the ones that got to go get the young and not yet born. The third and fourth generation. 3 plus 4 is 7. You feel me?
Got you.
So it goes on in 8. It says, "The inconstant feeleth that he changeth, but he knoweth not why. He seeth that he escapeth from himself, but he perceiveth not how." Be thou incapable of change in that which is right, and men will rely upon thee. In other words, be like the truth, the only thing that changes not. Those who are addicted to inconstancy are fooled by their passions and desires to believe they have mastered the unstudied self. Ain't no right way to do the wrong thing, family. You know, some of our people think they masters at, trying to be 3/4 slick, lacking a full dollar. But it says, but they do not know a mastermind is one who has first studied the self. The mayor of inconstancy makes him believe he is free, but he cannot understand how he is free, only free to roam further in the bowels of inconstancies. Once one has found themselves and stand for what is right, the teacher has been ready for the students. Islam. Powerful, ain't it?
It's powerful, and it makes me wonder, is this the same message that has been brought forth by all the prophets?
This is exactly the message that was being brought forth by the prophets.
Okay, so
this is just the Moorish school of thought and bringing it forth.
Okay.
Go ahead, brother. Returning the same lessons. These are ancient teachings. Go ahead, brother.
So then where's the corruption?
That's
to the
key.
people.
See what I'm saying? That's the question. Like, where is the corruption? It's all dealing with one's thought pattern.
Okay.
We are what we think we are. You see what I'm saying? So it goes on and it says in Ayat 9, establish unto thyself principles of action and see that thou ever act according to them. If you do that right there, the scimitar is rotating right there, in your crown of consciousness. And that thwarts all forms of corruption, right?
I'm listening.
So then if you go here, he actually explained it in this commentary. He says, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice are principles of actions. See, it's one thing to talk about love, but another thing to be love.
Okay.
One thing to talk about truth, another thing to be truth, peace, freedom, and justice. See, this is our original state. The higher self is when we live these things and not just deal with the philosophy of it, but actually live it. That's the ancient Comedian model. He said, these are of the force deriving from infinite wisdom, divine order, and life everlasting. There are no shadows, negativity, nor time dependency with these impregnable principles. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice are the highest principles known to man. These are organic expressions and cares of the great God Allah being continued through us all in our love to each other. When we, the Moorish Americans, represent He who made us, when we exalt, honor, and enact the 5 active principles of our flag, after many cycle ages, El Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, the last prophet in these days of time, returned to us our flag, the Moorish flag. Now, it is the duty of every Moorish citizen to preserve these holy and divine laws, establish unto ourselves principles of action, and see that our ever act is according to these principles for which it stands. Powerful. So you see how all this right here plays, and why, we represent our flag as we do, because we are the living manifestation of the banner. You feel me?
I'm starting to catch on to that. Now I'm really thinking about the flag, because, traditionally we think of a flag as like just some banner, but this flag has meaning. It is deeper than just some cotton waving in the sky. You know what I'm saying? Like this is about the principles and the manifestation of what we represent as a community.
Facts. Watch what it says here, because we say establish unto thyself principles of action, right? It says, Ayat 10, so shall thy passions have no rule over thee. That's the key. You know, we got to draw a circle around our passions and desires and keep them within the bounds of righteousness. Do that with that scimitar of consciousness. So shall thy inconstancy ensure unto thee the good thou possessest, and drive from thy door misfortune. Anxiety and disappointment shall be strangers to thy gates. Passions, emotions, carnal feelings, obsessions, addictions, sediment, false sensations, constancy. Ensure constancy secures your acquired goodness, peace, and happiness. Disappointments, failed expectations, dissatisfaction, disillusionment, regret, frustration, setbacks, and failure, strangers to thy gates. Anxiety and disappointment cannot find a way into your soul by way of entries to the heart, the doorways to the soul, the gateways to the mind. See, because the true heart of consciousness is above your neck, not the blood pumping organ, that deals with the body. Yes, sir. Go ahead, brother.
I'm over here trying to catch up, man. The thought that came to mind is the youth. How do we bring forth the youth this message? But then I think I kind of got the answer, and it's by being the example. We have to exemplify these this knowledge, this wisdom, because we could take it in on an intellectual basis then carry it through. But for children, they need to see examples, because that's what they do. They mimic behaviors. So I was just thinking about the youth.
That's right. I'm going to tell you something, speaking of the youth. I was trying to go find a tire today for my vehicle. And I always go by this particular place. It's actually close by my mother's. But I ride by here. And this particular time I went to the location. Where I went in there, one of the older brothers was asleep that ran the place. Another older brother out the door, he was kind of, just out there. But it was youngins in there playing. Two little girls. They was around about 4 or 5 years old. They was rolling on the tires and stuff. And then they had another brother, which was about 6 or 7. This young man, while his father wasn't there, because me and his father ended up talking just when I was pulling out, he pulled up. But he was regulating his business. He went to the back to try to look for the size that I needed and everything. And his father taught him that from a young age in our conversation. And he moving like a young man already. You know what I mean? And so that's a prime example of what has to be done. Because some people go to thinking, man, they too young to learn. They too young. In ancient Kemet, they would put the seed in front of a particular deity, the monument of a deity, and let them pretty much be fixated on that. And that's how they acquired the God power of that special deity. And that's how the principles of Heru and Ra would return through those who would come up and be reared up, understood in that particular way. So the key is, if when you train them up in their youth, they won't depart from the way. Islam. Yes, sir. So it went on here. It says in 11, suspect not evil in anyone until thou see it. When thou see it, forget it not. What is the devil sometimes called? Answer, the lower self. It stands to reason why evil is in the heart of the word devil. It is the devil in him which likes evil. Notice that evil is as much a part of the devil as that which is vile, or vile, low, despicable, ill, sick, amiss, and bad. He who knows well the lower self has learned of these worldly illusions and time-consumed things that will pass away. Suspicion is a reflection, a mirrored action from the guilty that has not yet been revealed. Therefore, we should not suspect evil or any wickedness or weakness, in others that has not been already conquered within the self. Remember, evil is not requisite to man. Having evil as a part of his character is not necessary, basic, nor mandatory for man. Now, knowing evil is not requisite to man means you, O Moorish American, have the infinite power to survive every conflict you will have with evil. Therefore, when you do see evil in anyone, it is because you are reflecting upon evils you have encountered. Remember what evil is, but also what it is not to man. That evil you suspect in anyone is but a foe for you to remember. What you think about that?
I'm about to take a note on something you just said.
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to find a line right now. Where is it at? It said, when you do see evil in anyone, it is because you are reflecting upon evils you have encountered. What does that mean?
It's basically saying you recognize this because this is a part and parcel of your level of consciousness.
Yep.
You embody this, so you see it in somebody else.
Gotcha.
Else you wouldn't even pay attention to it. I gave the example in our class the other day. It's like being on a construction site, and if you get up there and you're dealing with a 7-story building, you way up there in the 7th floor, you don't know what's going on down there in the basement, So if you go down in the basement and then you see all type of crazy stuff that ain't being done the way it's supposed to be done, in most cases, you can correct that, but you didn't know what was going on when you were so elevated. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
And that's what you look like coming from on high, going into somebody else lower self and they weakness, trying to tell them about theirs when you ain't got yours on point. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, so we got to be the message that we bring in all actuality. So it says, Ayat 12, whoso hath been an enemy cannot be a friend, for man mendeth not his faults. An enemy is a foe, adversary, opponent, or rival, which by its nature can mean you no good, but will always harm you. Since the fall of man, instability, inconstancy, weakness, insufficiency of knowledge, and misery has been such enemies to the hearts and minds, it is impossible for them to mean well, therefore can never be a friend. These psychological terrorists are the lowest, devout, dedicated, heartfelt of all man's mental enemies. By comparison, when any man has been an enemy to another, it is because he has been trained to hate, and these emotions are subject under change by love to love. It says a credible. It says a credit. Yeah, it says a predictable. It says enemy. It says he has the same unchanging characteristics handcuffs or shackles has to freedom. The powers of these fetters can only restrain, that's what it's supposed to be, confined and detain. Once applied or activated, these enemies can only confine, enslave, and captivate according to their nature, but has no power to liberate, emancipate, redeem, or be a friend. Now, man himself without the knowledge of self cannot be a friend, for he is too weak to mend his faults. A weak man, like the aforementioned restraints, can change their purpose. You see? And it's strange. It ain't strange, brother. Because at that same time when I was talking to that brother, like 3 people came up. And it's just dealing with our people in close proximity. And I always deal with them. I come from the mud like most of them do. But I had a bird's eye view, so to speak, of being able to look at the condition of a few people. And as they came through, the brother would tell me, like one brother came through and I seen him. He walking and I seen under his shirt, he had a 100-round drum basically right there in his pants, right? He walked up and I was looking at him wondering, what's going on with the brother. He asked the brother, he said, "You all right?" He was like, yeah, he was kind of talking out his head. You can tell he was under some influence. So he walked on about his business and went on around the corner. He said, yeah, his brother was just killed, recently over there. This actually in the stomping ground where I growed up and where I come up at. His brother was killed. And then another brother came up, like probably a few minutes after that as we was talking, and he jumped out the car and said, yeah, can I have $1, brother? And I was observing these ones, like wondering, what's going on, taking a look at them because I could see they was observing me. But nevertheless, the brother was walking off and he said, yeah, brother here got shot. He was like, yeah, man, I got hit 14 times. You know what I mean? So I'm looking at these young brothers, and we was talking and he was like, and I told him, I said, but you still here for a reason, brother. And I went to giving him encouragement, and then before he left, he say, I know what that is around your neck. He talking about, the chain I got on, it say Allah. And he said, I want to say what I'm supposed to say, and I said to the brother, Islam, Salam alaikum. Yeah, walaikum salam. You know what I mean? Because the brother went about his way. You know what I mean? So this is the way it is in most cases. When one is demonstrating the truth and carrying the truth. That's what I was saying tonight on our conference call. When you really put it out there, the charisma would draw the men to you to give them the truth. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to force it upon them. They're going to get it anyway. But yeah, just wanted to point that out. Yes, sir. You want to add on, my brother?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
So just quite recently, you spoke about how that young man at the tire shop, I believe, or something like that,
That's
demonstrated what the example that his father provided for him.
Yes,
So
sir.
now immediately that makes me think of, and popularly in our community, the stereotype that, we don't have fathers, which may be true to some extent. And that happens through the prison system. And now even today we see movements that divide the family orientation. So, it makes me wonder if there's no sun, meaning sunshine, that shining armor in the home, what could we really expect out of the stars?
But chaos.
Right.
That's right. And it's a prime example.
And
You know what I
real
mean?
quick, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, and now I'm like, we know the nature of the womb. So what is the sun is gonna take on that example?
That's right. And dealing with that same measure, notice that we seen the example of what he instilled in his son, but right behind that, two brothers came and we seen the result, of them lacking
Mm-hmm.
their father.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So we had both sides of it, watching both of the conditions. That's what he asked me. What is it that we can do? You know what I mean? To reach out to these ones and get them to see. Because, this new drug they got out here called Molly, and which is really crystal meth. It's destroying the youth, man. It's worse than back during my era when they had what you would call crackheads. Because even they had something to think with. But these things that they got them on is completely obliterating their minds. Where they have full conversations, walking down the street, talking to themselves, and getting in conflict, argument with themselves. This is what's going on with the babies, the youth. That's a sad case.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
Man, watch this. It says, Ayat 13, how should his actions be right who have no rule of his life? Nothing can be just which proceedeth not from reason. That's the explanation of the sun not being in the house to shine the lights of Ma'at, those degrees of Ma'at on the consciousness of that young seed. How can the actions of one be right? The chairman goes and says, he say, to have rule of your life, your actions must be consistent with the rules of law, regulations, statuses, statutes of government, powers, right, control, and the strength to be in charge of his life. In order for any man to truly or to be truly just, his actions must be preceded from reason, wisdom, comprehension, logic, right mind, analyze, purpose, good intention, and the holy instructions of Noble Drew Ali. He must be able to think in order to save himself. And that's what's going on. Our people have been taught not to think. They have been taught to fear thinking, especially free thoughts. What you think about that, Jay?
Just even the opening title of Ayat 13 is very powerful. How should his actions be right who hath no rule of his life? That's true. We all need an example, a foundation, something strong to rely on, principles that we come up upon or that we have present in our homes. So again, to me, this is school. I would like to say I think everyone needs to tune in, but I guess they'll tune in at their own accord when they're ready.
Oh, they coming.
Okay.
We're gonna keep putting it out there just like this, and they gonna get it. Whether they get it now or later, they gonna get it. Yes, sir. And he went on to say the inconstant have no peace in his soul, neither can be at ease with. All right, it say be at ease whom he concerneth himself with. That's powerful. An inconstant person is diseased with the symptoms of being variable, unpredictable, unfaithful, infidelity, changeable, disloyalty, irregular, self-betrayal, cannot be trusted. He nor she has peace in their souls, neither can be at ease with whomever they concern themselves with. That's powerful. And that's the conflict. That's explaining why our people, so adverse to each other. Right there. Man.
To think that there are stages after this is a little scary and unbelievable, because this seemed like the worst it could get.
This seems like the worst it can get, right? Say, man, you done already seen hell and its flames. Man, this is true though. Now watch this. It say his life is unequal. His motions are irregular. His soul changes with the weather. The soul remains perfect even in the bosom of a fool. His inconstancies draws their strengths from not using the actions of the soul. Naturally, due to lack of cultivation and self-examination, sometimes his soul is seasonal by irregular motions. Man, you can demonstrate self-examination if you ain't got no self-determination in you. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Man, it says, today he loveth thee, tomorrow thou art detested by him. And why? Himself knoweth not, wherefore he now hateth. So a lot of our people don't even know why they hate themselves. They don't know why they hate you. But they'll kill you in the drop of a dime.
Uh-huh.
Ain't that crazy? And don't even know why.
And then end up in prison regretting it 10, 15, 20 years later.
Down the line. Facts. Now, 17, it says, today he is the tyrant, tomorrow thy servant is less humble. And why? Inconstancy. He who is arrogant without power will be servile while there's no subjection. And so, man, it's just crazy. He just really go into all these other ayahs and just they speak for themselves. Notice he keeps saying inconstancy. Today he is profuse. Tomorrow he grudges unto his mouth that which he should eat. Inconstancy. It says, thus it is with him who knoweth not moderation. Then he goes on and says, who shall say of the chameleon, he is black, when the moment after the verdure of the grass overspreadeth him? Inconstancy. Who shall say of the inconstant, he is joyful, when his next breath shall be inconstancy, spent in sighing? Right? It says, what is the life of such a man but inconstancy, the phantom of a dream? In the morning he riseth happy. At noon he is on the rack. This hour he is a god, and the next below a worm. Inconstancy. One moment he laugheth, the next he weepeth. Inconstancy. He now willeth in an instant, and willeth not. Inconstancy. And in another he knoweth not whether he willeth or not. Inconstancy. Yet neither case nor pain have fixed themselves on him. Inconstancy. Neither is he waxed greater or become less. Inconstancy. Neither hath he had cause for laughter or reason for his sorrow. Inconstancy. Therefore shall none of them abide with him. Inconstancy. The happiness of the inconstant is that a palace built on the surface of the sand, and the blowing of the wind carrieth away its foundation. Inconstancy. What wonder then that it faileth or falleth? When seeking knowledge of one's soul, the action of reason is preceded by thinking. When conscious thinking is then elevated by the will, it activates reason. This is what masterminds call resolution. It is reason, right? Resolve, steadfastness, declaration, ruling, firmness, solution, tenacity, determination. But what exalted form is this, that hitherward directs its even? It says it is uninterrupted course, right? Whose foot is on earth, whose head is above the clouds. The true course is the conquest of self, yet cannot be traveled without resolution. It says, on his brow sitteth majesty, steadiness in his port, and in his heart ringeth tranquility. On his brow sitteth majesty, resolution. His port is his soul center knowledge of the self. Notice it went through the inconstancy, now it's talking about the resolution, right? It says, though obstacles appear in his way, he delighted not to look down upon them. Though heaven and earth oppose his passage, he proceeded. Obstacles, dead, non-productive, unbeneficial enemies, deemeth, which is to stoop, condescend, consent, agree, lower yourself, resolution. The mountains sink beneath his resolution. Tread the waters of the ocean and dried up under the sole of his resolution. Foot. The tiger throweth herself across his resolution. It says, way in vain the spots of the leopard glow against him. Resolution, unregarded. He, resolution, marcheth through the embattled legions with his resolution. Resolution hands, he putteth aside the terrors of the death, right? Storms roar against his resolution. Shoulders, but are not able to shake them. The thunder bursts over his resolution. Head, in vain. The lightning serveth but to show the glories of his countenance. 31. His name is resolution. He cometh from the utmost part of the earth, and he seeth happiness afar off before him. His eye discovereth her temple beyond the limits of the pole. Resolution, coming from the utmost part of the earth. Resolution, seeth happiness afar off. Resolution, I discovereth her temple beyond the limits of the pole. He walketh up to it, entereth boldly, and he remaineth there forever. That's when you become fixed in that higher self, that scimitar, putting it up top of that star, right? Establish thy heart, O man, Moorish American National, master of Allah's nature, MAN. Establish thy heart, O man, in that which is right. And then know the greatest of human is to be immutable. The greatest of human is to be the God man you are centered to be. The heart of man, when misguided by his lower self, suffer daily because of inconstancy. Chapter 41. And so that ends this particular fold right here. And what you think about that, brother?
That was
Oh, we
tough.
got Soul up here too. I think that's our brother. Peace, Soul.
Islam family.
So L,
Islam
peace,
mode.
bro.
Islam. Yes, sir. What's the drawing with you, my brother?
Oh, tapping in, trying to catching these lessons and just tapping in, family. You know how it is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, you welcome, brother. We've been definitely drawing in here, and we've been bringing some grand measures on the manifest with this second fold right here. You picked up on a couple of them drawings?
I've been here for about 7 to 10 minutes. So for
Ooh.
the first 3 or 4, I was catching up and getting the subject matter, and yeah, I'm starting to catch up now and see what we're talking about. And
Hey, bro,
I'm liking.
this was elite, bro. You're gonna have to go back and watch this one. This was a step up from the last one. This one was, he went in on this one.
For
Yes,
sure,
sir.
for sure. Yeah, I catch all of them. I go back and watch all of them. Comedian adept is he's an adept. What can we say?
Yeah, we definitely we gonna definitely put this out there and get to sharing it, so that our family can get a drawing on it. And this is just dealing with that second foe, that inconstancy that come behind the instability. Go ahead, family.
Who's that? Me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh no, I wasn't saying anything. I was saying
Okay, gotcha,
Mhm.
gotcha. Most definitely. So yeah. But yeah, what about you, brother Jay? You got another measure to bring after that?
I like the conclusion, man, how he ended it on the resolution, because he's taking us through the inconstancy and these evils and these afflictions that we have, these addictions, these emotions, and it's just like, damn, it get worse than this. There's 3 after this, but then he goes in on the solution. And for me, he defined the resolution as reason, resolve, steadfastness. I love that steadfastness word, because that made me think that's step 1. So if I were to create a 3-step ladder for resolution, the first one for me would be proactivity, and that's also equivalent with being steadfast. The second ladder of this resolution would be the willpower, which coincides with determination. And then the third part is how we seal it, overcome it. That's the affirmative, the confirmation. So just like you had a 3-step ladder, I think within the Moorish, I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it made me think of 3 phases of this resolution and the steps that I can take personally to overcome my inconstancy. So meditating, having determination, and then confirming it, being proactive, having willpower, and then affirming it. So that's my 3-step ladder based off of the chairman's build.
Facts.
Absolutely. I know some things I was catching was I haven't been here long, was the knowledge of and the self, the self will, or the will of self, etc. And for everyone listening, whenever people are talking about knowledge of self, that's a general term, but our brother is going into more specifics as to what some of those steps or some of those degrees entail.
That's right.
A lot of this is talking about knowledge of self, knowledge of you.
That's right.
You know what I think's interesting? You know, if everyone who's watching goes and looks in the description, our brother titled the description, Self-Mastery is Moorish Science.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All the sciences lead to you mastering you. You know, we're all different, but we all come from that same source. But we all have guidance, whether it be from it's all the guidance is from that same source, but guidance from the stars, etc. Whatever you're going through, as an individual, whatever phase or level or plane that you're on, if you're battling depression, struggling with social awkwardness, if you deeper things, all of these things, you have to go deeper within to find the solution, and it's there. It's there.
That's right. We was giving the family a drawing too out of the brother Mustafa Gadala's book, The Egyptian Mystics, The Seekers of the Way. And there's a measure in here where he was talking about getting out of the box, right? And he said, it's commonly understood that the figure of a cubical box represents the restraint of human potential. The Egyptian was highly conscious of the box-like structure, which is the model of the earth or the material world. It says this form of statuary, called the cube statue, it says prevalent since the Middle Kingdom, 2040-1783 BCE. It says the subject was integrated into the cubic form of the stone. In these cube statues, there's a powerful sense of the subject emerging from the confinement of the cube. It is symbolic significance, and the spiritual principle is emerging from the material world. The earthly person is placed unmistakably in material existence. Cultivation of the desired virtues have the effect of liberating the aspirant from the material world by emerging from the box, the lower self. The divine person is shown sitting squarely on a cube, i.e., mind over matter. Other traditions, such as the Platonic and the Pythagorean, adopted the same, it says, of the Egyptian cubic representation of the material world, right? It says battling the enemies and impurities within. It says there are basically two forces within each of us, one pulling us down into the box and the other pulling us out of the box. This archetypal inner struggle in the Egyptian model is symbolized in the struggle between Horus and Set. It is the archetypal struggle between the opposing forces. Horus, in this context, is the divine man born of nature who must do battle against Set, his own kin, representing the power of opposition, and not evil in the narrow sense. Set represents the concept of opposition in all aspects of life, physically and metaphysically. We must continuously learn and evolve like Horus, whose name means he who is above. In other words, we must strive to reach the higher and higher. We learn and act by affirmation of Horus in each of us and by negating the Set within us. The obstacles within each of us represented by Set must be controlled and or overcome. In ancient Egyptian temples, tombs, and texts, human vices are depicted as foreigners. The sick body is sick because it was invaded by foreign germs. Foreigners are depicted as subdued, arms tightened and tied behind their backs to portray inner self-control. The most vivid example of self-control is the common depiction of the pharaoh, the perfected man, on the outer walls of the ancient Egyptian temples, subduing, controlling foreign enemies. the enemy's impurities within. What y'all think about that?
Go ahead, brother.
Sounds like me versus me. Like you were saying, that Lil Wayne song, Show Me My Opponent, right? That's what it sounds like, me versus me. Life is almost like a game in a way.
Yes, sir. Facts. Facts. In the last paragraph, it says, to battle the enemies within, we must identify and acknowledge each of them. It says, stories and other means of expression personify bad manners, and such as arrogance, anger, envy, and the characters of Egyptian stories will help you see these impurities. It says, in yourself, the mirror image, it says, so you can hate, reject, and defeat them. Other forms of expression, such as proverbs and humor, serve the same purpose. We need to identify, control, and cleanse the impurities within ourselves, which impede our judgment and ultimate objective. It is powerful. You know what I mean? Then he goes into the ego, personal enemy number one. Same thing, self-mastery, man. You can't make this stuff up. You feel me? You can't make it up.
Islam.
Islam. Yes, sir. So that's the whole key, family. Self-mastery removes or lifts the veil of the mystery. You know what I mean? That's what we got to dedicate ourselves to. And that's how we're going to be able to really make a mark, so to speak. You know, when it comes to, like you said earlier, brother, reaching the youth. Islam?
Islam, yes, sir.
I'm right with you on that, man. I was just thinking about that. Like how could we get this out more? That's really what I'm thinking about. How can we get this out more?
You know, well, I got it out by reaching y'all, and each one teach one. You know, one of my main things is, like I always tell our family, like Allah breathed forth the seven. You know, that's how we got to demonstrate. We got to breathe forth that seven solid, you know, foundation, and then everybody else, they will come, so to speak.
Islam.
So, you know, it ain't strange that you brothers showed up, and I'm pretty sure those who are watching, because I see a faithful, you know, amount that's looking at us when we come out here demonstrating, and I'm pretty sure some of them gonna come in as well.
Absolutely.
You know, to demonstrate their portions as well. You know what I mean?
No, you're right. It's all good because we want quality.
That's right. We want quality over quantity.
Islam, Mo. I know the same principles that apply to some of the celestial bodies which I heard you speaking about earlier is also going to apply to as above, so below. Is also going to apply to the child, you know. And if we're in the age now as well, the generations coming up, but as parents, you know, the child is going to look to the parents more so. It's going to look to the father and the mother. If we can get the fathers and the mothers and these generations, you know, coming up, they're going to be seeing this, then we'll get the child naturally.
Yes, sir. Big facts. That's the truth, brother. And that's what it boiled down for. We was talking about earlier when we were saying, speaking of that son, that divine son, you know, that's basically the source of the life of the family. You feel me?
Islam.
You know, so yeah, Islam, that's the key. Yeah, once we establish that, you know, and we replace that son within the universe, you know, that's where, you know, order comes out of that chaos, so to speak. A light manifests out of the darkness. You know what I mean? And
Islam,
we can create and say, let there be light. Islam.
Islam.
Yes, sir. So yeah, it's some powerful measures out there, family. We got work to do.
Bro, I'm giving you a 10. No, you know what? I'm gonna give you a 9 out of 10 on this one because I know you could take it up another notch. But yo, this one tonight, you killed it, bro. Like this teaching was on point.
Yeah, but you know, we want to give honors to you, brother, for being present. And we give honors to the chairman for all of his grand commentary, and it's an honor to be studied under this brother 15 years, you know what I mean? 15 years out of the great work that he been on the manifest, I've been able to sit at the foot of this mastermind, you know what I mean? And even coming through my journeys prior to coming here, I was being prepared for this measure, So it ain't no strange happening, family. So now we got to do the same work, and make sure that these teachings, like you said, reach our people. You know what I mean?
Islam.
Islamism.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. And like I say, I look forward to the time, and I know you brothers gonna have y'all time. When you get a chance to get on that conference call and come forth and breathe on the people. And because y'all the ones who the prophet spoke of. He said we need strong young Moors.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The young and not yet born. Noble Drew Ali say he came for the young and not yet born, the third and fourth generation. Like I was telling the brother earlier, 3 and 4 is 7.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Islamism without the schism.
Quick question. I don't know if you're about to jump off, bro, but I got a question.
Go ahead, brother.
I'm a rookie in the game, so I gotta ask you the questions. Can you tell or teach me or teach us a little bit about the prophet's development? Like his struggles, how he became a soldier, like what did his bio a little bit, what he went through?
Well, what we have of the prophet in his life, as far as his youth, we have history that, at one time when he was born, that it became very dark, and everybody that was working in the field put their holes down, so to speak, at the coming of his birth. But we found that his greatest challenge was his own family, his auntie, who had said tried to put him in the furnace. And that's why he said they had a burn mark on his hand. If you ever look at, information on it, they talk about the burn marks that he had on his hand. And she was very abusive to him, so he was definitely abused. He was adopted, by her. And it is said that his parents had studied up under Jamal ad-Din Afghani, those who were of the Muslim Brotherhood, so to speak, the Ikhwan, Muslimin, the Knights of Purity is what they call them. These are certain things that were said, but we know that he went into Kemet 1902 as a young man, 16 years of age, and he came back a full-grown man, a full-grown adept, and when he came back, he began in the Canaanite temple teaching the people. The Europeans caught him at customs, and they was asking him what them books at. And they say the prophet pointed to his head and said, they up here. You know what I mean?
Islam.
He was able to dictate everything that we know of the Circle 7. He was able to quote that from the head. A lot of old Moors that memorized the Circle 7. He was a Hafiz, basically, of that demonstration is how we get it. But his most opposition came from his people. In the first temple, the Canaanite temple, and then and most of this came from Christian preachers and those would-be Masons and so forth and so on. And some Orthodox Muslims. Some like Sheikh Ibn Dawood and Sadi Majid and even the brother Dr. Suleiman. Malachi York said he studied under Sheikh Dawood. That's why he had certain visions about the prophet like he did. It was based on what he learned from that teacher. He had a lot of opposition, but he also had a lot of support, by the time he went to Chicago, because he said there the people was closer, to Islam. And so when he moved into Chicago, and made Chicago the Mecca, began making Chicago the Mecca, he ran into a little more difficulty there, but by that time he had served the purpose of doing the work that was necessary for him to do, before he crossed the borderland at will and dropped the guard, so to speak. So nevertheless, we still talking about Noble Drew Ali now. His name, like I said the other day, is being chanted like a mantra. You hear it. I mean, there's even a video, you heard me talking about him saying he do East. When they had that George Floyd situation, there was a brother that came through waving the Moroccan flag, and it just so happened to cause the Prophet to go viral in Morocco. Because his picture was up there, and they was talking about Noble Drew Ali, and you can hear him, if you know a little Arabic, they Prophet, they Nabi Noble Drew Ali. And they was basically talking about the flag, and it made the people from the East begin to reach out to the Moors over here. And I said, boy, a Prophet Noble Drew Ali ain't no prophet. I mean, you got to look at some of the things that he said. Have you brothers ever really heard the hadiths and the prophecies of Noble Drew Ali?
Besides what's in the Circle 7 and some of the 101s, 102s, and whatnot, not so much.
I'm going to let you hear some of the things that he said in, the in his hadiths and his prophecies. And these are his oral statements and, everything that he said. And one, he said, one day, when the 7 bridges cross in the sky, there will be red fezzes and turbans as far as the eyes can see. And them 7 bridges is in California, so to speak, right? But in this time, we see Moors and fezzes and turbans all over the place right now. The brother said also, he said, the only way out of the fire is through the fire. And that meant basically the only way out of this condition is through the same laws that we became enslaved on. You see? Then he said, if I were you, I would get ready before you are made to do so. And if you are ready, stay ready. If you're not ready, get ready. You see? This is what he said. So when you hear people saying that came from Noble Drew Ali. Get ready before you are made to do so. Then it says, some of you Moors are going to throw away your name just for a morsel of bread. He talking about the one free national name, Moorish American, meaning they'll sell out, and let the European misuse and abuse them, all for $1 and refuse to say that they Moorish Americans. He said the European is going to have to pay our people off for the work they did in slavery and pay off in compound interest. He talking about reparations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Islam.
He said Islamism. He said one day the Europeans are going to lock the food up in warehouses and put soldiers around them to guard them. And you will go anywhere, he says, to get something to eat. That's martial law. We seen some of that demonstrated during the time of COVID, didn't we?
Indeed.
Right.
He said one day you would go to the store and there would be soldiers there with guns, with bayonets on them, and they would not let you enter. They will order you to move on. Then he said one day the European is going to let you down, and you're going to have to put up a 90-day food supply to last you until your brothers come to your rescue from the east. He said one day you're going to smell Europeans before you see them in boxcars going back to Europe. He said the European would not be able to remove all the wealth from the land. After he goes back to Europe, mountains of gold will be revealed to the Moors. I don't know about the people. They ain't went all the way back to Europe yet, but I know some mountains of gold have been revealed in Africa in a couple of places recently.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? So this is a man prophesizing in detail, and it's coming to pass. Now, we heard many prophecies from Prophet Muhammad, Prophet Isa, Jesus, alayhi salam, and a couple of more of them. But here they spoke in a vague type way. He's directly telling you what's going to happen, and this came to pass. And that's one of the signs of prophethood. You see what I'm saying? The proofs of prophethood. What he speak come to pass. It says, if the European be just, they would have an Asiatic president, vice president. He said, and if they had an Asiatic president, they would have a European vice president. If that ain't Barack Obama and Joe Biden, I don't know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Then he said, and also Condoleezza. Not Condoleezza, what her name? Your girl, Camilla.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He also spoke of that. So he said, I'm going to stop the European from thinking and start the Moors to thinking for your own good. You, the Moors. In other words, he going to uproot that European thought pattern that our people got in. He ain't talking about making the Europeans stop thinking literally, but getting us out of that brainwashed state of thinking of being scared to be free. He said, get a good European education, I can use you. What was he meaning by this? Oh, some people think that meant go up in the European scholarship, classes and schools of higher learning, right? That's all good and well, but a real good European education is learning what not to do. You see how they run your government, so you don't run your government the same way they ran there. That's a good European education, right?
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? You don't do the things that they did that caused them to be in the position that they are now, killing up people and, no. So then it goes on. It says the holy prophet while speaking would jump up in the air and laugh and say, Rome, 2,000 years ago, you got me, but I got you today.
Islam.
Islamism. I can imagine Prophet Noble Drew Ali saying that and firing them Moors up. He was a powerful man. Thinking about this brother was teaching all this over 100 years ago, bro. This was the first man to teach on Kemet. You know how much opposition he had dealing with a bunch of Negroes that thought they was Christian. Oh, man. Goodness gracious.
He still has them today.
He still
I
got
can't imagine 100 years ago.
Yeah. Come on, man. He said, I'm going to lead a European here long enough just to teach you how to run a government. He said, watch the newspaper and listen to the radio. I'm going to make the European tell the truth. That brother was speaking with power, clarity, and authority, wasn't he?
Absolutely.
He said, a European asked the Holy Prophet, will we be saved this time? He said, the only way the European, can be saved this time will be through the help of the Moors. Man, he say, children, when you get on top, treat the European like nice. He telling you that you destined to be on top. You know what I mean? Man, it goes on. He say, I'm going to stop the European from thinking. If 2 or 3 of them get together on something, they will go back and tear it up. He said one day the United States would not be able to do any business unless they do it through the Asiatic. He said, I'm going to make the European enforce my law. But these are, man, it goes on. It's like, man, all I can say is Noble Drew Ali, was most definitely the greatest of all time, if they want to call it that. I won't use the term GOAT.
Where can I find that?
They have copies of this online, but you can actually get it from the website. As well, you can call headquarters. At 434-676-1555, and you can get all of these things from the chairman. All of the literature that is necessary for one to have, understanding, a proper understanding. In fact, I'll show you right now. Going into this right here, again, I showed the website the other day, but you can go to the website and also get deeper understanding. What you do, you go to this tab here, right? You got love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice here. You know what I mean? And you go here, mag products, and you can see everything it is that we have. We got the oil, teas, and compounds, which Y'all got to get you some of that right there. That'll definitely get rid of any ailments that you got going on. It'll help you, I promise you. Toothaches, all type of stuff, cleansing the blood, you name it. That's the Book of Fire. You know, you got all of the books, the Book of Ali. You got the original Holy Quran of Moorish America with the 70 chapters. This is the questionnaire. They go to Hadiths. You know what I mean? Which he got the new version. This is the smaller version I got in my hand. I actually got another version there. You can get the lapel pin set, the flags, which I got around me. You got the medallions and everything that you can get if you reach out to headquarters. The chairman got books and he autographing them now. You know what I mean? So this is one of the greatest books ever written when it come to freedom of the Moors. It don't get no plainer than that. So yeah, you can go at our website at MoorishamericanGovernment.land.
That's lit.
Yes, sir. So yeah, man, all is well, brothers. But it's a grand draw, man. I ain't gonna hold y'all up. I know y'all got to unfold like I got to unfold as well. But is there anything else you brother would like to bring to the manifest before we check out?
I just wanted to say, as usual, thank you to our brother comedian Adept. I did want to say to the family out there that isn't aware, if you're not aware, uh, the recession and whatnot that comes with a nation, and that's what we have as Moorish Americans. So all the attempts and whatnot in the past, wrong status, that's the reason that it didn't work and it didn't apply. So
Fact.
with the studies comes clarity, and a lot more of these things will start to make more sense on a deeper level. Yep. And I appreciate you, brother, as always. Always.
Oh yeah, well, brother, I honor you brothers too, man. I'm standing on y'all's shoulders right now, the giants. And this is what we do, brother. We yield way to the family, you know what I mean? And so yeah, we definitely here to set the record straight and let it be known that self-determination is the order of the day. This is a Moorish movement, divine movement, and everlasting movement. As long as we demonstrate salvation, our God, and unity. You know what I mean? Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir. And we do it in style, where our people can relate to us. We ain't so far out of reach to where they can't relate to us. You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir. Islam.
Islam,
Yeah.
Islam.
What about our other brother, Jake?
I'm just looking forward to the next one, man. You already know I'm gonna be here.
Yeah,
Notifications turned on. Everyone, turn your notifications on, man. Like it, share it. There's at least one person that could benefit from this. So we need to get this out there, and I'm looking forward to the next one. And I appreciate you.
yes, sir. We're going to go through all 5 of them just like this.
Also, brothers, too, real quick as well. If if we have a common goal, and we do, and one of our common goals is to reach the people that we talk about so often, we have to they have to come part of the way, but at the same time, we can alleviate some of that burden if we know that some of this content that they're not going to quite understand that yet, or they're not quite to that level. That
Fact.
might be why you're here right now, to filter that through and get that to them on a level that they can understand. So regardless if somebody doesn't tune into the video or whatnot because they can't see it for what it is yet, still make the effort, still make the effort.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is what we do, man. If you go look at all my history, that's what I do, and a lot of the audience come later, and I did one video like about a few weeks ago, and I got like 1,000 subscribers not subscribers, 1,000 viewers in like 2 hours. And so they definitely gonna tune in. Maybe we'll try to start doing these videos a little early up in the day as well. You know what I mean? And we can really also reach the people. Even doing a video in the day and in the morning, but being consistent, and that's what I'm doing now, just coming up now, doing the lives, because a lot of the stuff I have is uploaded. I did lives here and there, but I'm just really starting to get live, and just constantly do it. So we hitting them high and low, so to speak, with everything coming from on high. But we hitting them, on the plane of things made manifest, and in the plane of soul, which is consciousness as well. Islam?
Islam, more.
Yes, sir. As it is above, so below. As it is within, so without. Yes, sir. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take us out with another track like we did last time.
Let's do it.
Yeah, give y'all a grand drawing. The people love this particular track right here, man. This track right here that I'm finna play now is called Moorish Ties. And the Moors, they love this particular drawing right here. And it was one that I definitely poured, my all into, to give one this special drawing here. So I'm gonna let y'all check it out. And because we gotta reach our people on every level. We gotta speak the language, that they understand. Because some of our people, you can only reach them through this medium here. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Let me share this screen real quick and share the audio so y'all get the gist of it. Okay, there we go. And action. Cosa Nostra, industrious acts. I cracked the code of Da Vinci, these are actual facts. Angels and demons, Illuminati and Judas goats. Elite minds of our own who turn cutthroat. Espionage, betrayal, 30 pieces of silver. Merovingian bloodlines and bootleg house niggas. Who wanna think it we be sleeping with the enemy? Let us rise and give honor to Noah Durali. We used to say for I and you and me. Now the weakest you brothers keep a piece of jealousy. Cloud chasing in the sea, he abandoned the creed. Desire was his vice, but envy his disease. A fist full of dollars led him to his demise. Front page, it was tragic, a bloody homicide. What brought this man? He gains the world but loses soul. Feel the wrath of Allah. He was struck sevenfold. Moorish times, we span time 700 years. Principalities, world powers, diamond chandeliers, chiefs and emirs, black turbans and scimitars. Allah's will, we prevail as one under God. Moorish times, we span time 700 years. Principalities, world powers, diamond chandeliers, chiefs and emirs, black turbans and scimitars. Allah's will, we prevail as one under God. The seat of power lacks dominion when sultans depart, but immortal virtues shall remain within the people's hearts. True successes are often overlooked and crucified. Cheeky Miliel did his best to exercise his fire. Opposition from all sides forced him on the ground. Exiled from his post, but loyal to his crown. He stood his ground, but no one man can defeat the mob. He transitioned in silent historic landmarks. We came as we are, and we are as we came. We came, saw, and we conquered. MAG shall remain. These are divine instructions. Let us unite the nations. Heavenly mandates, self-determination. Treaties, consortiums, covenants, holy and divine. Social duties and obligations, proclamation signed. Theocratic, supreme laws, organic design. Creative, they deliver justice in due time.
You raise up cowards, you raise up imbeciles, you raise up good for nothings. If you can do what other nations have done, what other races have done, then you had better die. Can we do it? We can do it. Because any leadership that teaches you depend upon another race is the leadership that will enslave you. Let me say that again. Any leadership that teaches you to depend upon another race is a leadership that will enslave you. They gave leadership to our foreparents, and that leadership made them slaves. But we decided to find leadership of our own to make ourselves free men. Babylon did it. Assyria did it. France under Napoleon did it. Britain under William Pitt, Earl of Chatham did it. America under George Washington did it. Africa with 400 million black people can do it. If you cannot do it, if you are not prepared to do it, then you had better die.
Yes, sir, family. Yes, sir. Most definitely, man. It's all love, brothers. And y'all already know what it is, man. What y'all think about that vibe, brothers?
Hey, I'm already knowing. You know, I had the pleasure of coming across one of your gifts on another on another channel. So you know which one I'm talking about. So you know you represent, and you know that's what I'm here for, to show my support. 10 out of 10. You know, both on the flow, the beat, the substance, the content, and you can hear that our brother really put his soul into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Was that Garvey at the end?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That was the grand man. Yes, sir.
Now, do we have audio or video of the prophet?
It ain't strange you asked that, but I have been told that it is audio of the prophet, but unfortunately, you know, you have individuals trying to use things like that and hide it, you know, and a lot of that stuff gonna unfold too. It's the age of information, so they ain't gonna be able to hide it for long.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was one of the questions I was asking, because Garvey have a lot of footage, you know, and audio. There's other people like movements also that had audio. So I know as industrious as our Moorish kin is, you know, they definitely had audio, but a lot of that being held back. Even in one of the investigation documents, the European was actually recording, you know, certain things that I see record of recordings. So yeah, I know for a fact that they got one hid, or a few of them hid somewhere. You got to remember, he had Oscar the Priest and them with him. He had Louis B. Anderson. These were prominent figures, you know, and I know good and well, you know, the prophet, looking at what they was, they definitely had some recordings, you know, and they yet to turn up, but we definitely gonna get them in due time. Islam?
Islam, yes sir, Islam.
Yes, sir. Islamism, brothers. So yeah, we gonna shut this demonstration down, but you know we coming back again. And we love you, brothers, man, for everything y'all do, everything you will do. And if we build it, they gonna come. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Peace and
Yes,
love, everybody. Peace and love, uh, our teacher, comedian adept. Peace and love, Jay. Peace and love, family listening in, and peace and love to those in the future who have yet to come.
that's right, brother. The
Peace,
young
bro.
and not yet born. Peace and love, brother. I love you, brothers, man. Y'all stay up and keep waking the people up, and I'm doing the same on my end.
All right, bro. Stay up.
All right, peace and love. Also, honors to the brothers in the chat, brother SL and everybody else. Ross Stahl, shouts out to all you brothers. You know, everybody
Islam.
that came through. Islam.